All right, so it says we are live. Let's check in with the chat. What's going on, chat? We got a few people already in here. We got a lot of people coming from. Shout out to our special guest, Joe Skull's Theory. We got, we've been wanting to get him on for a minute now, and I'm thankful that he can stop by here. It's a time zone difference, but so that's why we're streaming on a Saturday. But it's gonna be a fun stream. We got so much to talk about. We got a huge chapter, man. Like so many theories, so many different revelations confirmed. So much to talk about. Yeah, man. Let's see. Is the stream going? Yeah. So the stream. I see people in the chat. Yeah. So Tapist Person 420. He said, "Hello, always here for you." I think these are Joe's fans, man. Some of these people I haven't seen before. Shout out to Joe.
Yes, sir.
So, Joe, you want to introduce yourself,
man? Thank you for having me. Oh, thank you guys for having me. It's been a long time coming. I've been looking forward to this day for a while. I'm Joe, Free Skull Theories. You probably know me from Twitter and a couple of controversial agendas here and there throughout the last 3-4 years. I mainly write about One Piece, do the theories. I've been doing that for 4 years now. Written over 200 theories on Twitter. Been going strong on that. Hoping to branch out to other platforms.
Yeah, man. Shout out to you.
Thank you all for having me.
It's underrated, your content, because as someone who does theories, bro, I see you. It seems like every single chapter you got a different theory. You got multiple, bro. So it's incredible work that you've done, and it's a lot of in-depth stuff. And I see a lot of threads, and we'll get into the whole Twitter aspect of it. It's an interesting collab here. We got people from YouTube from my side and Twitter from your side. But yeah, it's legit theories out there, bro. I get a lot of information from Twitter that I like to shout out in my videos, and people just don't consider. I know a lot of people don't even use Twitter. For my fans, like, they don't even know that TCB even exists. So I always tell them, you got to get on Twitter. There's a lot of dope content out there, and Joe is definitely one of those main guys that I look to on the Twitter side of things. He's got a lot of bro, you point out a lot of details too, like on some Arthur O'Hara kind of stuff. So shout out to Joe, man. I'm just happy he's here, and we're gonna get into a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of controversial takes that we were talking before the stream started. We're gonna get into some of those too. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a fun stream. We got Krow here. He's got a few things going on. He's on his phone, but hopefully he can stay as long as he can. We got Prince. We got JJ as well. It's gonna be a fun stream, man.
Yes, sir.
So
yes, sir.
Yeah, I see the chat.
Looking forward to it.
The chat's going
the
crazy.
The charming host can't host this week, but I'm still here. So yeah.
We got a lot of new names in here. We need everybody subscribing. We need everybody liking the stream. Appreciate all the new people. Thank y'all.
Make sure you like the stream. Yeah, we got to get this stream too. I want to get to. Let's try to get to. We already got. Let's see, 20 likes. I want to get to at least 100 likes. And make sure you subscribe, or make sure you go follow Joe on Twitter. I got his link in the description, and also another plug: OPU merch in the description as well. Check out the merch shop. So let's get straight into the chapter ratings. We'll start with Joe. What do you rate this chapter out of 10?
This, for me, has to be a 9 out of 10, I think. It's not quite that kind of pinnacle chapter where, like, absolutely astounding. Like, I'd say, what was it, 1044 with the Joyboy reveal, Luffy becoming Joyboy, and maybe 1037 where you had the Gorosei talking about, all the Zoan fruits have a will of their own, and this one is the Nika fruit. This one was not quite on that level, but very, very close to that.
No, yeah, I completely agree, bro. We got some huge reviews from Vegapunk, and we'll get into it. But one of the theories, like I've always been saying that Joyboy was the first pirate king, but we got revealed that not only was he the first pirate king, well, I guess that wasn't confirmed, but we found out he was actually the first pirate, which was really interesting. So we'll talk about that soon enough. Prince, what was your rating for the chapter?
If I wanted to do memes and stuff, I give this an instant 10 out of 10 because my boy Shoo is in the damn chapter. Seen him for so long, and he's finally here, and he's doing what? Not just that, he actually has a response that's actually very interesting. Even though it's literally just wolf, it's an answer to an extremely like in-depth question about One Piece lore. So I find that hilarious, and that he actually has an answer for it, even though it is literally just a dog barking. But still, very interesting. But other than that, memes aside, I do have to say it is like a 9.2 out of 10. Like I'll be specific about the point two because
9.2.
there are some crazy things in here, but like things like Dofi coming back, like making some very interesting like references of what's going to happen in the future, and also in my mind what's going to happen in general. I'll go more in depth later, but the idea of the first one to be called a pirate, I feel is very interesting, and I think that the story is going to move forward kind of like Luffy and like his way of pirating. I feel like the whole story of Joyboy is going to lean towards what is the definition of a pirate. And I feel like Joyboy has an entirely, completely different definition of what a pirate means in society versus what is established now in the One Piece world. So I am very interested to see how that is going to go moving forward.
No, I agree, man. It was it was fun to see all the different characters, Dofi, Akainu, and everybody else, Water 7. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, we got to find out what Joyboy represents as a pirate, and Luffy, we know he's going to be Pirate King, so I just feel like it's perfect. Like, we're going to find out through Luffy, but then also through the original Joyboy as well. JJ, what are your thoughts? What is your ranking for the chapter?
I mean, let me be frank. I'm glad we didn't stream Thursday because I was kind of in my feelings with this chapter because I've been kind of off put recently with the flashing all over the world. But like now that we had some time for me to digest it, I'm on the same realm as y'all. I'm thinking like 8.5, maybe 9. I love the fact that like when we went around the world right after we heard about the world possibly being sunk. We go to Impel Down, we go to Water 7, we go to Fishman Island, we go to places that specifically are water based. So, that adds to a lot of, I imagine, theorists. I'm on the stream with a bunch of theorists, so I imagine that would, be able to give y'all some more fuel to add to y'all fire. And then with everything else that we had in this chapter, I mean, it can't be a 10 because there wasn't no Frankie or no Zoro around. We got to be fair. But, I mean, this is an amazing chapter. I felt like this chapter is really suspenseful. If I had to use a word to describe the chapter, it would be suspenseful. Vegapunk talking. You got Smoothie. You don't know where Smoothie is. She's added into it. And then Akainu, I'm really, out of all the people that was in this chapter, I'm really wondering, what's on his mind when it comes to this information that he's learning, that he's probably hearing for the first time as well. So a lot more questions than answers. You know how Oda does, but I mean, the little bit that he gave us is enough to hold us over through this break week for sure. I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the whole thing with people, I think we need to see everybody's reactions. I think it's necessary. But I do see what you're saying. Like, it is like taking a big chunk of the chapter. But I do think it's necessary, especially now that we're seeing people like Akainu and Dofi. I think it's a lot more interesting.
Yes, sir.
So, Krow, what was your ranking for the chapter? What do you feel about this chapter?
I'm gonna have to go with an 8.5, man. I would have did 9, but we didn't get Green Bull's reaction, so that was kind of disappointing. But overall, what I'm saying, this is Oda's strength. His world that he's created, the characters in it, everybody feels like an actual living, breathing character. Every island feels like its own separate and unique place, and seeing how one instance, which is the usage of the Mother Flame on Lucia, has impacted the world to this much. And we care about what these guys have to say. Like you said, you waiting on Akainu, want to see what he gonna do. We get to see Paulie and Iceberg a couple chapters ago, and Water 7, obviously, the Aqua Laguna stuff. That's a big deal. Impel Down, now we got questions. Was Impel Down always underwater? You know what I'm saying? Like, things just get so much more interesting. And that's why I love flashing all over the world, man. This is peak One Piece to me, bro. I love to see all this. Mother Flame, lot of questions. Some top man stuff in here too that I'm surprised you ain't speak about. But overall, man, this is a great chapter. I think we're going to get more information than we expected. Because I was thinking we was going to get blue ball, to be honest, by the reveal. But Joyboy being the first pirate was an amazing revelation as well. And just, it was a dope chapter, real dope chapter. Just Green Bull next time, we good.
Yeah, I think he did choose the perfect characters, but also the perfect places, how you said, like, considering Impel Down and just having the idea with the world building, how are these certain places that he already has being impacted by this? It's like, yeah, we want to know what's going to happen to Impel Down, Water 7, and even like Shirahoshi and Fishman Island. They're on underwater island, but then also connecting them to Joyboy at the end of the chapter. I feel like he chose the right people. Even Akainu, like, now he's questioning the world government more. So yeah, I really did enjoy this chapter. For me, I'll go a 9. Anytime we get Joyboy stuff, man, I'm really excited. We got a lot in this chapter, little details, like even the robot is now finally starting to activate, it seems, and it's just a lot of cool stuff. Like how you said, I wasn't expecting this much. I was maybe expecting something at the final review. But it does feel like a lot more than what I expected. Yeah, I'm always excited for some lore. So for me, it's a 9 out of 10. Chat, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this chapter? What do you rate the chapter? And let's jump straight into it now. So to start the chapter, like we said, we start out. Actually, we'll start with the cover page. We see Yamato and Kinemon. We're continuing with this Wano cover story. And I'm still hoping that we see Blackbeard and some other stuff. Buggy, maybe. Somebody come to Wano. But going into the chapter, we see everybody's reactions. We see Vegapunk is finally starting to reveal things. Akainu's reaction. It was cool to see Akainu too. It's funny, like the memes. I see a lot of memes on Twitter. Akainu and Dragon, bro. They always got really not much to say or not many moves to make. But anytime they pop in, it feels like Oda's always building for something with them, but we just never really know. We see Dofi, we see the Water 7, and bro, I'm excited for Dofi. Okay, I want to start with Dofi. What do we think is going to happen with Dofi? Is Dofi escaping Impel Down? Is he, with this whole if he's right about them, and he's talking Magellan like we're gonna have to go higher up. Is this Dofi's chance to escape and somehow come back into the story? Joe, what do you think about that?
I think I've always been on the agenda that Doflamingo could escape whenever he wanted. He just hasn't, because he's just chilling. He's watching. He's just reading the newspapers. He's basically just sat back spectating. And when he wants to escape, he can do so pretty easily. Like, I think the only thing is like the chains on his cuffs. I can't quite remember the episode number, but there's actually an episode number. If we think of Doflamingo had Virgo in the Marines. The whole time he had an inside man in the Marines. How ridiculous is it to think that he would have an inside man on Impel Down? I would say almost certainly he made that precaution, knowing for a fact that for the eventuality that I might end up in there, let me get some people in on the inside so that when I want to escape, I can just click my fingers and then these guys will come along, give me the keys, I take my cuffs off, then I can use my puppeteering powers to just take over the whole place.
Yeah, that's fire. Like, we know Dofi is a manipulator. We know he's smart and he has these different like he's always thinking steps ahead. So yeah, bro, I could definitely see that. And I saw a funny chat, the take-a-ish thing. It's like, could you imagine that's the perfect time? Like, Magellan is taking a run to the bathroom, and then Dofi's chance is right there to escape. I mean, that would be like a funny cover page or something, bro. Like, Oda could definitely do something with that. Anybody else got any theories for Dofi?
Oh yeah,
I don't really got any theories. I just think it's weird. Like, when they first caught Dofi, you can understand Suru, him and Dofi Dofi had a relationship beforehand. So you can understand her sitting there, having this kind of conversation. But why is Magellan just deciding to sit outside of Dofi's prison and just having conversations with him? Like, I never even really thought about it. But I mean, what Joe was saying, what if that was Magellan? Maybe he's the one that got the play. in regards to helping out Dolphin. We really don't know anything, but I'm just wondering, like, throughout this circumstance, every time we was in Impel Down, it wasn't like, Magellan spending time with the prisoners. What makes Dolphy different? I never really had that thought process till Dolph bring it up. I mean, till Joe brought it up. So I thought that was a great idea. Great mention.
I just assumed it was Dofy was that dangerous and that much of a wild card where it's like he's going to try to escape in some way. So like, and I mean, there's a good point to that. It's like Magellan could be, we saw a few hundred chapters back when Dofy was talking to Magellan about, they're going to try to comfort me. Are you going to protect me from, I guess he was hinting to Gorosei and Emu. So I guess maybe since then there was this kind of relationship where Dofy was warning him of that, and now Magellan is actually trying to protect him. So that might be a reason why. But anybody got anything else for Dofy?
Dofy's thing is huge because I see someone in chat saying literally he's there because there was an assassin to kill him. That would be interesting.
French, you a tad bit low.
Am I a tad bit low?
I tried turning it up, but yeah, it's still a bit low.
All right. Let me try putting it up just a tiny bit more. How about now?
Like and subscribe.
It's good, yeah.
Like and subscribe. How about now? Is it better?
It's better, yeah.
Okay. So, Dofy, in my opinion, is just bidding his time. He knows exactly what he wants to do. And it's not what he's aiming for is something so different from anyone else. In my opinion, the closest I can see him to in terms of a goal is Blackbeard. And he's not aiming for the general pirate king status or something. He's aiming for whatever the revolution that's about to happen, like the chaos and everything, what that brings. And then once the throne actually becomes empty, once this whole thing of the war against the celestial dragons going up to the red line, because he literally says we could always go somewhere high up. Vegapunk's message to the world, having panic and discourse, as they say in this chapter, making everyone fear for their lives that the sea is actually rising. I mean, obviously, when you're thinking about going somewhere high up, there's only one place on the entire One Piece planet that is higher up than everywhere else, and it's the Red Line.
Yep.
So obviously there's going to be disputes and stuff, and civilians are going to think, well, if we want safety and protection, we have to go to the Red Line. But obviously Celestial Dragons are be like, we're gods, that's our territory. In fact, all you plebeians are going to stay down there and get cleansed while we stay up here and we're good. That's going to cause major panic, discourse, revolution, huge amounts of distrust with the world government, to the point where it's going to be literally a war between those on top and those on bottom. And that's what Dofy is aiming for. Once those two sides clash together and create this entire chaotic revolution, and who knows what's going to happen in terms of the seat of power, that's what Dofy is aiming for. So he's just bidding his time. And he knows that Luffy is the key, because as soon as he lost to Luffy, he's like, all right, he's the member of D, he's going to cause a storm and whatnot. So he's just waiting, and that's why he's interested in every single piece of news. When it's Luffy becoming a Yonko, Luffy defeating two Yonkos, Luffy invading Whole Cake Island, all these things, that's why it's more and more interesting for him, because he can tell that shit's about to pop off.
No, I mean,
something else.
Some really good points, bro. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
There's something else about Dofy. I've got two things for you. One thing is that if you notice, you go back to, I think it's chapter 556, his Marineford speech, and chapter 801, his post-Dressrosa speech. If you look at the details in both of those speeches, there is one character that those speeches pertain to almost exactly, and that character is Kuzan. Dofy says, pirates are evil, Marines are justice, these things change all the time. It's the tide of the time. Then he says in his other speech, when will the D show up? Who will help who and who will betray who? Then he meets Aokiji, or Kuzan, at Punk Hazard, and he says, what is your game now? What side are you on? Which way are you going to go? And I think this is something that Oda has done purposefully, and it's setting up for when Dofy does escape, one of the chief characters that he's going to be involved with is Kuzan.
See, I like that too because you mentioned the fact that pirates are evil, the Marines are justice, right? And he goes on to say that the victor is always the one who's able to label history. And if that's the case, then yet again, it even goes more into the fact that this whole like culmination of like events that are happening is gonna like try to figure out what is the definition of a pirate. And I feel like Dofi knows the truth about what happened with Joyboy or something, and that's the secret that is being kept in Marijua in a certain sense because he knows the true history of Joyboy like being a quote unquote pirate, but he was actually good. He was actually like doing good things or just very much like Luffy liberating or doing what he wants. Like although it's quite chaotic, it's always in a good sense. So he knows what that definition of a pirate is and how the world government, how Emu, the Gorosei have turned that tide and pretty much labeled pirates as bad from that point on. And he knows the truth, so that's why he's able to create these speeches. And now changes are happening in real time. So
it connects as well.
It's interesting too, Joe. You brought up Kuzan, right? And like we saw that interaction with Kuzan and Dofi too. It just seems like Dofi. I feel like he kind of knew what was going on with Kuzan. He was switching to a pirate, but also you can tell like it's exactly what you said in the speech in Marineford. It's like Kuzan represents exactly what you said, but he was seeing it in real time. Like he even said, like your eyes are the eyes of a person who's made his mind up. And what Prince said too, you brought up something interesting about the red line. Now, like looking back on the entire world building of One Piece, and considering it's called the Holy Land in Marijua, it is interesting, bro, because the Holy Land is going to be so important at the very end of One Piece, how you said, and the fact that they specifically chose this place that was previously the land of the Lunarians, but also this is going to be a land that's at the very top of the world, where it's not going to be affected so much. It makes you wonder how intentional was all of this. How was there a bigger reason for them choosing that specific place to create the entire Holy Land and the Celestial Dragons? Because it seems more and more like that's a key part to this whole flooding and everything. So,
oh yeah,
I've got a big link up for you there.
Ooh, let's hear it.
So if you go back to chapter 253, Skypea, Ganful has just been defeated by one of the priests. They've saved Chopper, they've come along. Now they're camping, they're setting up the fire. This is the same chapter where Nami discovers how the two maps connect, Skypea and Shandora, to form the skull. Then they realize that Shandora is in the right eye of the skull. When Ganful wakes up and they're all partying around the fire, and we get that first glimpse of Luffy doing the Nika pose, Ganful sits beside Zoro, and he says, "Thank you for saving me, appreciate it." They start talking about the culture of Shandora and Skypea, and he says, "Do you know why we now call this place the Holy Land? We call it the Holy Land because we worship the soil. The soil Verth is sacred to us. It is the sacred ground." And if also we go back to chapters 470, 472, Enel's cover story, this is the stuff that's a lot of people have been talking about on Twitter, the potential connections to Mother Flame. Enel discovers that the winged races who came from the moon city of Burka traveled to the blue planet seeking natural resources. So at that time, in the ancient era, before everything, it was already called the Blue Planet. And this connects directly to the three winged races as we knew them: Shandorians, Burkans, Skypeans. The Shandorians settled in the sky, Skypea. The Skypeans settled in the sky. The Shandorians settled on land, Jaya. And on the blue sea, I'm getting it backwards, sorry. The Lunarians settled on Marijoa, land. The Skypeans settled in the sky, Skypea. The Shandorians settled in the seas, Jaya, land, sea, and air.
Yep, it makes sense. And
Yeah, and that's interesting too because the Lunarians are considered the gods, right? So if they're the ones that are tied to the land, and we know it's other reasons too, like they had a very powerful abilities, but also like if the Scorpions are in the air, and then you got Lunarians kind of conquering the land, you can see why they became the gods.
yeah,
It's
also
interesting. Sorry,
there's a
carry on.
yeah, I was gonna say there's a thing in the Mother Flame in this chapter where shout out to Mr. Bushido, he noticed this, but the certain uh things and drawings or like letterings on the Mother Flame, like A and Mu, S108, stuff like that. There's a lot of connections to like many like elements apparently and things like that, and it broke down to fire, water, and lightning, and they came to the premise of lightning powers being passed down to the minks, water, obviously, Poseidon, Fishman, and things like that, and fire would be the Lunarians. And what I find interesting is that in this case, in the Mother Flame's case, uh, obviously, if Vegapunk's able to use the Mother Flame, that's why I feel it's possible for him to use combine it with Lunarian genes and make the Seraphims be able to make this crazy weapon that Emu is trying to use to destroy the planet. But what's even more interesting is the fact that when you see the close up of the Mother Flame, it looks like it's moving. It has a heartbeat, and it has the exact same sound effects as when like Luffy was beating his heart back in 1044 when he was, or 1043 when he was just about to become Joyboy. So I find that very, very interesting. So who knows? Maybe that came from Joyboy himself. Maybe it's a hint as to the Mother Flame being somehow connected to Joyboy, but I do feel like they are connected in some way, for sure.
One chapter you should check out again for those link ups. Chapter, if you go back to chapter 840, you get Yonji showing Sanji the Germa tanks, the Germa army, and he explains how Vegapunk and Judge discovered the lineage factors, and this was the original reason why the world government arrested Vegapunk in the first place, and they took Mads and they turned it to the SSG. And he says this was nearly a step into the realm of godhood. If we connect that to the Lunarian stuff, the Lunarians being gods, this implies that the ability of the lineage factors is very central to how they've made the Mother Flame.
Actually, yeah, that does make sense.
When they said oh, go ahead.
I wasn't even going to say much. I was just going to say, like, I appreciate Joe. I remember we used to have a guy on this channel that used to be able to quote chapters and all that type of stuff. I don't know what happened to him. So to hear that kind of energy and just know your stuff is really refreshing. I wonder whatever happened to that guy. I don't know.
You really want to pull smoke now? That's crazy. That's nice. All right. Well, maybe you got to step my game up. Maybe I've gotten rusty. My bad.
I ain't say no name.
Krow, you got anything for Dofi or the Impel Down stuff, or you got anything?
Doflamingo is not leaving Impel Down. I'm gonna go ahead and put that out there. He's finished. We're gonna get a couple more reaction panels from him.
You think I'm getting a little bit too excited and too hopeful?
I mean, I'm not gonna say he's not leaving. I don't think he's gonna come back with a major role. Like, I think it was kind of introduced a little bit too late in the game for that. Like, we can get Crocodile coming back and Buggy, whatever. Even Buggy is kind of special, but I think that he was kind of introduced too late in the game to justify him coming back with another huge role in the arc, especially considering his ties to Celestials and all that. Those are the people we're going to be dealing with. So I just don't know where he can fit in it. You feel me? But he might be breakout, but I just don't think it'll be nothing major if he does. I think he stays, to be honest.
I think the one thing
I want to share the information that he's been holding over the world government. I mean,
I agree.
That's what they're gonna learn themselves, though. Lou, that's like.
But when you think
where
about,
we learned that from Dofi.
If Vegapunk doesn't expose Emu, Dofi is the one that knows about it.
So we learned
that
that
is very
Vegapunk.
valuable.
The two
I mean, you
most
think we learned that
dangerous
from
men
Doflamingo?
on the One Piece
I'm
planet right now are
I'm
Luffy and
I meant
Zoro,
like
for
if
sure.
if Vegapunk doesn't reveal anything about Emu, I don't think Dolphy will reveal it to everybody, but he might reveal it to a certain group. He might try to go for the throne. He might like there's a lot of things where he might, he might if the celestial dragons are in this war, right? Like Dolphy might try to take over, bro. Like I'm not like I feel like that's always been his main goal, and I don't think he's gonna stop now.
I think it's too many hats on the rack. You feel me? Like we got Blackbeard trying to be the king of the world. Luffy to oppose that. I can't. I mean, like you can tell me things that you think he can do. Like, yeah, that was his goal. But every villain we ran into had a goal that just didn't work out. So I don't think that Dolphy would like just has to come back because that was his plan. You feel me?
I
But
don't think
One
it's
of my one of my favorite memes. One of my favorite memes on this is the popular GIF of the guy just like pulling out the popcorn and sitting down to watch the telly.
yeah.
My favorite is they copy pasted Dofi's face on top of that, and it's just him on top of the roof of Merijoa eating popcorn, watching as Luffy punches the shit out of Emu.
that would be. I mean, like I'm not gonna like just say no. Like he's not coming back because I never rule anything out. Because one thing I've learned watching and reading One Piece and interacting with the community, we don't know shit. To be completely honest, so I would never just say this is not happening or that is not happening. I just think that the role that he could possibly play coming back is kind of filled by Blackbeard. So I don't know what he would like. You said we know that information, right? He knows special information, but if we don't get that from Vegapunk right now, I feel like that's gonna come when they find the One Piece. Like, I don't think Dofi has a place to reveal that. So I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I would put Dofi in the same category with NL, where I think their main function is to kind of serve as like microcosms, as miniature versions of Emu himself, where all the things they do in their arcs sort of echo what Emu is all about. And there's so many different little clues and hints here and there, and things that foreshadow, especially with NL and Doflamingo. They basically just tell us what Emu is.
Facts. I
And
fully agree with that.
Mm.
Because if you really do look at it for like a very standard point of view, there is tiny bits and pieces of evidence of the Void Century, learning about the world, learning about certain parallels and structures of whatever Emu is doing, the world government, things like that, like different facets of life and stuff with each and every island. And if you quite literally put them all together in one piece, you figure out the whole story. So obviously, like if you get parallels of certain characters and stuff like that, it all will eventually come back to Emu and the original story. So that's why it's important to see and take in each and every single island's information and bring it back to the bigger picture. So I do agree with that wholeheartedly.
All right, but before we move on, I wanna do a super chat. Flevins, $10 super chat,
Yes.
appreciate it. He said, shout out OPU. I'm gonna check the stream out after work. Top man, so he was excited for the top. We're gonna get into that soon. Don't worry, bro. So we're gonna give a lot of opinion. We got a lot of breakdown with top man, Warcury versus Gear 5. It was exciting, man. So
Why
appreciate
we
the super
keep
chat.
talking about that pig, bro?
Listen, no. He
Bro.
had it's an important moment in this chapter, bro. I feel
Hey,
like
Porky the pig is not important. He's a pawn, bro.
listen,
Just like
JJ is over
dudes.
here building a coat, bro. The fans want to
Exactly.
hear it,
We
man.
gotta stop this before it gets major. This is a cult he's building. You gotta join and follow his rules and pray 5 times a day to top man. What's going on?
Joe,
Gorosei gets strength off of your prayers. What you mean? And listen, I'm basically speaking for Joe. Like I'm sure he's already aligned with the top man agenda. You know what I'm saying? So we really ain't even got to talk too much about that. But I'm glad that we spoke on that. Top man,
I want to
top man. All
Joe, what is your favorite Gorosei?
Nasty.
I've not quite decided there yet. I think in terms of just portrayal, currently Warcury and Top Man are easily the most intimidating. Saturn kind of just got punched around the whole time. The other two haven't particularly done much yet. I would be most excited to see Zoro versus Top Man, but I'm very interested in seeing why exactly can Warcury. Is he stronger than Kaido? Is he not? Is there a trick to this? You know, how does this sort of invulnerability actually work? Because I have a suspicion that if you can take away what's causing their regenerative abilities, their telepathy, their apparent invulnerability, once that gets taken away, I think that's when they become vulnerable, and then they don't really compare to Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks, Mihawk.
Yeah, they're not that. They're some frauds for sure.
I guess everybody got the right to be wrong, I guess. But
they are frauds. Once we get past this little BS, you know what I'm saying? When we find the source of this power, they some frauds. Don't worry, you're gonna see Garland over it's Gorosei.
Quickly before we get into this, we can go into this Top Man Gear 5 stuff. What can someone explain to me what exactly happened with bro? Okay, is Chopper done, bro?
Bro, he looked just like terrified.
Bro.
He was
Chopper might be out.
like, look, I'm not doing this, bro. He said it's post time skip. I'm not supposed to be fighting.
I compare it to. Crazy. It reminded me a lot of when Luffy was in Marineford and he just for no reason at all was somehow able to block Sengoku without using any haki or anything. It's just base, balloon, Sengoku, apparently a mythical Zoan, punching him directly just did nothing. And that reminded me of this, where you've got a Gorosei, apparently with every power you can think of, hitting Chopper, who, does he even have haki? Well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But it just seems like that, where Oda's just kind of does his thing sometimes, and you just have to kind of look past it.
Yeah, it's just funny thinking that Chopper, I guess he could be fair, like he could be the one guy to kind of deal with this from a medical standpoint, fighting off poison. But it's like, bro, like surviving an attack from a Gorosei is kind of wild for Chopper. I'm not gonna lie, but
to be fair, he did block Big Mom.
Yeah, he
Chopper's
did.
a very underrated.
He did block Big Mom.
In terms of strength feats, he is a bit underrated because he do got something in him. But
get the fuck out of here.
In my opinion, if he's able to survive this, I think it's specifically because of his fruit. Hear me out, because if Luffy is like doing like crazy stuff, but he can't damage anything like when it comes to the Gorosei, but if Chopper survives this, like a poison straight through the heart thing that Vegapunk got one-shotted from, I don't know, man.
Listen,
Chopper might got some durability.
There was a scene from Fishman Island, I think 649, where they're talking about Blackbeard and Akainu, and they say, "Oh, Blackbeard, all his crew, they're taking all these fruits," and Chopper's like, "Oh, they're gonna come for me," and Usopp's like, "Nobody wants your human fruit. Why would anybody want that?" Kind of dropping a hint that Chopper's fruit is not all that it seems. And if we look at what Luffy has and what Sengoku has, both of them are human-type fruits, but in the mythical category. And they can use... Luffy has, I think, 7 different forms now. Yep. Chopper has now 8 different forms. So there's, I think, a very high chance that Chopper's fruit is actually a mythical type, and that would explain why he's just apparently able to block all these high-power people.
Not just
that,
like,
bro. I just saw the Flevins in the chat, bro. He said $2 super chat. Appreciate it, bro. He said Chopper tanking back shots. That is a crazy one, bro.
Yo, we need to
listen. Chopper needs
to get this man out the chat, bro.
Listen, bro.
We gotta start letting these top man guys run around like this. This is what happens when you let this cult survive.
Yo. Chopper needs a bounty raise at this point, bro. If he's because let's be honest, bro. He's doing whatever he can to protect the crew, and for him to get such a low bounty, I feel like he deserves a raise at this point, a significant raise, not like another 0. He needs a big one, bro.
I feel like that's just another case of the world underrating him completely, and that he might show out and do something nuts that no one knows of. So
he got too many forms, man. They don't even know who he is half the time.
Exactly. Hold your breath, brother.
I like the idea that actually he's supposed to have had quite a big bounty the whole time. There's just a typo on the type machine.
See, what I find also very interesting is that Oda in the last chapter made Chopper the pawns, right? But what happens when a pawn is able to go all the way past to the end of the board? They turn into whatever they please, whether it's a queen, king, well, not king, rook, bishop, whatever. So if that's the case, if Chopper gets to that final stage, who knows what he could turn into.
You think we know how to play chess, big dog?
Oh,
I
yeah,
know
we know how to
also
play
there's
chess. Don't sell me short. But,
I'm finna learn, though. I'm finna learn. What, chess.com, I need to learn. Somebody plug me in, bro.
Chess is simple, bro.
No,
Hey,
it's simple at the
but-
lowest level.
we talking about
There's another
Chopper. We talking
interesting
about
detail there.
Saturn. I just want to give props to the Straw Hat crew for being able to stand up to Saturn and nobody really taking any real damage from what it seems like. I mean, when he first pulled up to the Sunny, I was kind of nervous, but everybody put their war face on and man them down, and it was a beautiful thing to see. This is what a Yonko crew is supposed to feel like, and we growing in ACAD. Usopp ain't running around looking fearful now that his masters are here. Like lock in.
I think that we always, I ain't gonna say underestimate, but this is a thing with One Piece in general to me. It's like Oda is not gonna show. He shows instead of telling. I feel we all came into Wano like who's gonna beat the Tobiropo, Frankie not strong enough, yada yada. Low diffed him, and it's like we look at the Straw Hats to be so far behind, but in reality, like it's not really that hard for Oda to just make Sanji. I mean, not Sanji, Frankie or Robin strong enough to stand in front of whoever's in front of him, and that goes for the whole crew. I feel. So we gotta stop underrating them for real.
There's something I picked up on in that regard recently that kind of changes the whole perspective on the weaker Straw Hats. Nami has Big Bum's lightning powers. Chopper has the power of the ancient giants or the giants, respectively. Robin has the power of the giants and Fisher Tiger's Fishman Karate. Frankie has Kizaru's laser beams. And Brook has Vinas Duro's ice sword style. All of these people have these kind of copy-paste styles or imitation styles of absolute top-ranking people. And this kind of explains why Oda's not really, he's hesitating to give them Haki, because if he does, these guys will hop, skip, jump to high tier easily.
Like,
For
it'll
sure.
be dramatically elevated in terms of power. Especially, in my opinion, Brook. If he has Haki, it's done. It's
my
over.
God.
Oh, bro, Brook is calling for Zoro and Jinbei's help in this chapter, bro.
Bro, I'm telling you, if he gets Haki, it's over.
He's a fraud.
I'm telling you.
He was screaming high pitch too when he was calling their names. It was high.
Bro, it's all right.
The thing you've got to look out for with Brook is that he's the one who, I think, during the time skip, when he lands on that island, there's one of them summoning circles, which is almost exactly the same as the Gorosei ones, and he has powers very similar to Vinas Duo. So it looks like he might have a very special role when it comes to actually being able to damage them because of those soul powers.
Because he's the Soul King, bro. Exactly.
So
But they don't want to hear it.
damage in
It's okay. They don't want to hear it. It is
Not
what
at
it
all.
is.
I'm anti Laboon and I'm anti Brook, but that's another
How can he
story.
be anti-Laboon? That makes no sense.
Laboon never do.
That's a long story.
Exactly.
It's a long story.
Man, fuck Laboon.
Exactly.
Bro.
But
Bruh.
listen, we talking about damaging the Gorosei. In my opinion, when Saturn got separated from those Straw Hats, then he encountered the Mother Flame. That made me kind of feel like, is that something that may have to do with the weakness of what it takes to actually hurt them guys? He was in his spider form. As soon as he notices the Mother Flame, now he's back to his regular form. Like maybe that's like their
Yeah, I did
equivalent
see
of
that.
like water to them.
It's like when he saw it, he was like, "Oh man," and it was small, but I noticed it as well. And then maybe the blue flames from Sanji, it's gonna be a pretty big deal.
Man,
So we got a $2 super chat. John Smith. Joe, do you really have 3 skulls?
I don't. There's a story behind that. It's based on one of my original theories was the connection between Blackbeard and the ancient giants being based on his 3-skull Jolly Roger. If you look at Oars and you look at Oars Jr., they both have a 3-skull ornament.
Yeah.
Either a little Oars Jr. has it on his neck, and Oars number 2 has it on his belt. So the theory goes that Blackbeard's special lineage is of the ancient giants. He is descended from Oars the First.
Yeah, it's like,
and that's how I got them. That's how I started the name 3-skull Joe.
because a lot of people don't really I think people just missed it. It's like really easy to miss. Little Orange Jr. is the 3rd, so it's like There has to be a third. There has to be 3. So we only seen 2. So yeah. I've always found that to be interesting, especially because we know the giants. I feel like the ancient giants, especially in this chapter, we find out more and more about Elbaf. I wonder if the ancient giants were even predecessors to Elbaf or somehow connected to Elbaf. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I wanna first of all, let's try to get to 50 likes on this stream. We're almost there. And let's jump straight into the Gear 5 stuff. Gear 5 versus Warcury. Top man. So what is going on with this? Anybody want to start this off?
JJ, take the floor, big dog. Let's hear it.
This is all yours, man.
I mean, I've been telling y'all from the get-go, like, you know, I don't want to go too far. You know, Joe's new to the stream, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I've been reading One Piece for a while, so I've been putting little pieces together, and everything is basically showing us that Top Man is going to be the final boss. So, like, we got to let Luffy build his way up to figure out what it's going to take to defeat this man. If he can't defeat Top Man, he can't defeat Imu. So, like, we've already seen, like, they can't hurt Saturn, and he's the weakest, obviously, Prince. So, like, once you go up against the big dogs, like, there's really no options. But like I said, I think once we get more information in regards to that Mother Flame, I think we're figuring out their weakness. But just throwing hand, you can't box with God, like, literally. And, like, they're literally showing us that now. So, Luffy needs to get the heck up out of there. The Giants are running in fear. Luffy is throwing punches at something that doesn't even acknowledge him. Like, what are we doing here? Get the heck out of here. Go to Elbaf where it's safe, man.
Doesn't acknowledge him. I don't know about that. Considering he looks scared silly when his bounty poster drops. So.
Yo, you're talking like CM Punk.
That may have been Venus, Juro, or Saturn, but that wasn't Top Man. I'm sorry.
Bro, I don't claim Saturn. I know he's a piece of shit. Like
that was chapter 1055, and it didn't go down like that. I remember the panel.
Okay. Hold up, we got a super chat. Y'all want to hit that?
Yeah, go ahead, girl. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Krow.
Big Jordan Epstein, hey, finally caught a live stream. A stream live, my goodness.
Yeah, he said, but who y'all got in this Kendrick versus Drake beef after all these new disses? Team K-Dot agenda all the way.
Oh, yeah, definitely Kendrick for sure. I feel like once you are exposed as a diddler, there's no coming back.
As a bro.
So,
been
Drake, count your days.
Subscribe for 3 years? What that 3 mean?
Kendrick took the job.
What'd you say, JJ?
I gotta go.
I'm back, my bad.
I was like, is this Jordan Epps guy? Has he been subscribed for you for 3 years? Like, what that 3 mean on his thing?
I think it's
that just sounded like a true supporter.
Yeah, I think he's a member, right? Or is he a 3-month member?
I have no clue, but it is interesting.
No, but I appreciate the super chat, man.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think Kendrick won for sure. Like the "Not Like Us" song was my favorite song of all the songs from the beef. But I will say this, for me, bro, I do gotta respect Drake for one fact. I don't think Kendrick out-rapped Drake. I think it was, from a rapping standpoint, I think it was very close. And I don't think people were expecting that, so I gotta give him credit for that. But I do think Kendrick won for sure.
I think that the rapping, best rapping was on 616 in LA from Kendrick and Family Matters for Drake. Those are the 2 best songs by far to me. After that, I'm really in on the rest of them. Euphoria was pretty good.
But the thing is, Krow, I think you're biased though, because you always said like you don't mess with DJ Mustard beats.
Yeah, for sure.
Come on, bro. That song, bro. You don't like that song for real?
I like
that beat is crazy, bro.
I like Kendrick's lines and verse, but the song itself, I'm not that. I don't like it, bro. It ain't me, bro. I can't rock it.
I feel what like about, it's supposed to be that like very like pop type, you know, like hit type song. Like it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be catchy.
Yeah, you saw LeBron dancing to it.
No.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Not LeBron, but yeah, Kendrick definitely. And I think that Kendrick's not even finished either, in my opinion. There's obviously a lot of speculation that he might talk about X sooner or later with the whole I see dead people stuff, but honestly, I have no clue. But if Kendrick is going this far, and if Drake even dares to even make a tiny response, Kendrick's gonna like come with the
keep getting phone calls, bro.
I think Kendrick took it way more serious and he was more prepared. I feel like Drake. Yeah. I feel like he
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
take it serious, but he was just like, all right, we're gonna rap and have some fun. But I think Kendrick came to just destroy
No,
Drake.
I think that
Drake
Kendrick was just a
wasn't
lot
locked.
more calculated than Kendrick. He
More
from the
strategic,
start.
yeah.
Drake wasn't locked in. Every song is about 6-7 people. By the time he actually got to focusing on Kendrick, people already had their mind made up. So he played
Yeah.
himself. If you go and battle who people literally consider the best, let little Rick Ross and Metro, like you can address them eventually, but you got to lock in on Kendrick. Kendrick had nobody to focus on Drake, and it shows. The best parts about what Drake was doing was about ASAP. So like,
You
I'm gonna
think
say
so?
this, bro. If what Kendrick is saying is true, I don't really take what both of them say serious. I think they're both lying. But if what Kendrick is saying is true, because he's like really going hard on this narrative, if what he says is true, I think Kendrick is the GOAT, bro.
Yeah. People are saying there's 3 situations. If Kendrick is saying the truth and Drake is lying, obviously Kendrick wins. If Drake is saying the truth and Kendrick is lying, obviously Drake has a little bit of leeway and he's back into it. But if they're both lying, J. Cole wins because he dipped out and he don't got to do any of the
Bro,
damage.
Nah, bro. You know what?
He's sitting on a beach chilling.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. J. Cole to me is still low key a coward, bro.
a coward?
JRD,
I feel, bro.
JRD
Like,
and Earth Gang told him
In my
that.
opinion, he realized the beef was bigger. Or he probably stopped because there's been theories about it too that Kendrick told him. Because Kendrick
No,
told
it's true.
him,
It's
to him
true.
and
It's
he's
not a
like,
theory.
all right, I'm gonna come like to Drake with the
Whoa.
heat. Pause. I'm gonna like come at Drake with the heat. Like it
Nah,
is
that
not
wasn't-
safe for anybody.
It
Like,
was a little
so-
different. They say that Schoolboy Q warned like Cole. Like he was like, "Look, you might be looking at this on some like we finna rap and like just spar and have fun type stuff, but
Nah, it is
because
not.
it was at the festival, people saw them talking at the festival where he apologized. He was like, "This not finna be that. This finna be much more serious. Like people finna get exposed. There's a lot of stuff." So Cole's like, "That's not what I'm here for. So I'm cool, bro."
Peace
I'm not
out.
excusing. He should have never released the diss track in the first place, though. But yeah,
I mean, that I was
I
very
mean-
confused about, but he knew when to like just
yeah.
yeah.
We can
Joe,
pivot back to
Joe,
one.
you got any thoughts on this Kendrick stuff, Joe?
Yeah.
I have to say, from my perspective, Kendrick won in terms of actually a diss track. He's actually, as you say, targeting Drake specifically, and he's really got everyone thinking that Drake is a nonce, and that is hard to come back from. And I think when you come to the other perspective of just winning by not getting involved, like I think from J. Cole's perspective, he's got people on his label like Jid and Earth Gang, and they must have just said to him, "Man, it's not worth it. Don't even do that. You know, just let them go." Kendrick's got all this stuff that he's going for. Drake's got all this. Just sit on the sidelines and spectate. And then I think from J. Cole's advantage is that these other 2 guys, Kendrick and Drake, they're kind of shooting shots at each other. And Cole is just relaxing. You know, he's probably got an album or at least a couple of singles that he's working on. And he can just ride that publicity all the way to releasing his next tracks.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I
What
really
was
hope-
that word you used?
I hope he drops
Fun
an
time.
You used
album.
the word. You said Kendrick made Drake look like a what? What was that word? I'm trying to steal it.
A nonce.
That's what they call it
Nuts,
over there.
okay.
I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
the nonsense are.
I've seen people from
pedophile.
over the pond call it that. I don't know what it means, but
No,
yeah.
it's
Stealing
it's
it. That's
a
all I know.
UK
Stealing
slang for pedophile. If I'm
It's
not
a
mistaken.
nuts. That's
That's
hilarious.
correct.
All right,
Yes.
Chad, what are your thoughts on the Drake and Kendrick stuff? And I want
get
to
us
go back
demonetized,
to One Piece, bro. You know, we'll have to honestly. I think we could do an entire stream on Drake and Kendrick. But
We will,
yeah,
we will,
because
yeah.
there's a lot to go over, but I don't want to make this a whole stream about that.
Yeah, not like last week.
Yeah, not like
Sorry
that.
to the hardcore One Piece fans looking for theories, but Drake and Kendrick, it just slipped through.
All right, so
What
do you
about top
guys?
man again?
Oh no.
Did we finish that conversation? I'm sorry. I hang up
Oh
the
yeah,
phone.
we can
We
keep
should-
going. I was gonna continue with that. Like, what do you think about? Because during this whole fight, we see Vegapunk is talking about Joyboy, and to me, it's really interesting. Like, do you think people are gonna start to side with Luffy as a pirate? If he's exposing like Joyboy was a rubbery figure, I feel like it's gonna be a time where now people are gonna start realizing Luffy is Joyboy. And there's gonna be a lot coming where people are gonna start to realize, like, I mean, it still depends what Vegapunk says about the world government, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be anything good. I can see a situation where the world starts to sway more and more towards the revolutionaries, towards Joyboy. What do you guys think about that?
100%. And I feel it's truly because of the fact that Luffy has made a name for himself doing what he does best, being himself. And it's gonna like leak soon enough that like, oh, they're talking about this dude being rubbery, stretchy, and elastic body, and then people who have actually met Luffy through all these different island stuff are gonna start to connect the dots, and they're gonna be like, hey, what if they're talking about Luffy, bro? And they start to look at the picture, they start to look at like his Near Gear 5 poster, and they're like, it might actually be Luffy. And then they start to connect the dots and stuff, and they start talking about piracy, whether it's a good or bad thing. Obviously, people have preconceived notions, but then if they look at Luffy in real time and see what he's done in Water 7, Skypiea, Alabasta, Dressrosa, literally every single arc, he's shown that, yes, he is a pirate, but at the same time, he does good and he intends to do good. So
That's a good
he's
point.
quite literally rewriting the definition of what it means to be a pirate every single arc.
Yeah,
and
no,
every
that's
single arc
that's
goes
facts, bro.
based
Because
on every island. Sorry, my bad. He like continues to push that narrative even further.
no, that's facts, bro. Because if you think like there's a stereotype the world sees of pirates, and I feel like with the world government they have control, they have the propaganda, but I feel like it's not like a complete control of the people. I think there's definitely we've seen that people are definitely taking into account the world government's corruption and the problems. Like it's not like this whole idea that everyone agrees with everything the world government does. They definitely have some problems with it, and more people, or certain people more than others. So I can definitely see a switch starting to happen. But
And
I think
in some cases, it's not even like they're like they don't feel that way. It's just that they don't have the power to like
there's
fight
a fear.
back.
There's a fear element
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, and now that Luffy's that power element, they actually have the chance. So
there's a very interesting thing to consider from the idea of controlling the narrative. That Luffy being rubber, and rubber in at least in England is what you might call an eraser to erase things.
yeah,
And then you've got Emu, whose role is to control the narrative by erasing things. It opens up this really interesting consideration where if Emu is basically erasing stuff to control the narrative, what happens when Luffy comes in and just completely breaks that, and the narrative just as we go back to justice, whoever wins is justice. Pirates, evil, Marines, good. That is controlling the narrative. And Doflamingo is basically telling us not everything is not as it seems. You have to consider things from, this thing might seem that way, but consider it from the exact opposite angle. So, the ancient kingdom were the good guys. Well, what if they were the bad guys? Oh, the world government were the bad guys. Well, what if they were the good guys? And this whole idea of the world government itself was formed on the idea of there should be no one king of the world. The king of the world shouldn't be a thing. Where did they get this idea from? Unless there was a king of the world that they were fighting against, which opens up the idea that Joyboy himself was not fighting against the world government. He was with them. Before the world government was a thing and they had the empty throne, they made the oath of the empty throne. None of us are going to try and take control over the other. Emu betrayed that, but before that, this alliance came about because one person, the king of the world, was controlling everything. So they banded together to fight against that. Probably this would maybe the king of the ancient kingdom, and then Joyboy, being from the ancient kingdom, decided, I'm going to help you out and we're going to liberate the world. And that's where the warrior of liberation comes from.
no, that does make a lot of sense. And I feel like when it comes to the parallels between Luffy and Emu, it's quite interesting if you think about it, because there's obviously references with devils. They're like certain like very horrible and like monstrous transformations. Sabo saying it literally feels like hell at the top of the world. And if you think about it, Luffy with the human like mythical god fruit is quite literally everything positive in humanity that stands for, like creativity, imagination, being able to change, grow, evolve, things like that. Whereas if you look at Emu, like it's trying to contain those things, and when things don't go according to plan, erase, restart, and try to gain control once again. So it's more so like uh, uh, the ability to stop and contain, like, and like control people versus being free, letting your imagination grow, letting people like understand innovation, creativity, like those types of things. It's very contrasted and different. So like you can definitely see those two parallels together. So I'm very excited for the fight between Luffy and Nemo for sure.
Yeah. Also, on the idea of what defines a pirate, if I think what Oda's doing here with Joyboy being the first to set sail and being the first pirate is that I'm sure everyone might be familiar with a thing called the Age of Discovery. This was the 15th to the 18th century, and the Europeans started to set sail to discover the other world. This was like the start of colonialism and the start of globalization. But if you take that idea, the Age of Discovery, and you apply it to Joyboy, the Ancient Kingdom, you've got this idea of not a pirate, but an adventurer. And this adventurer sets sail, he's just adventuring, he's discovering stuff, he's meeting people, just like Luffy, just like Roger. But then, if we go to the real history of the world, the real Age of Discovery, this adventuring eventually turns into colonialism and globalization. So if you've got the king of the ancient kingdom is backing up these adventurers, realizes this world is full of all this cool stuff, all this money, all this gold, these cool people. I want to take that. I want to have it, just as the Europeans did, for hundreds of years, the colonialism and globalization. This opens up the idea that the ancient kingdom used the adventurers like Joyboy to basically as a launch pad to take over the world.
Honestly, that does make a lot of sense.
I never even heard of that term, the Age of Discovery, but I'm looking into it now. Like that, yeah, because I do think Oda from the beginning had this idea that he wanted pirates to be the centerpiece of the entire story. And like the thing I love about it is that we're now getting it on so many different layers and so many different aspects that he's not only tying in real inspiration from history, how you mentioned, but also there's a deeper meaning of what a pirate means. And for Luffy, I mean, Luffy, if he becomes a pirate king, it's ultimately the best message for One Piece, because we know Luffy is how, Prince mentioned earlier, he's not evil like the stereotype. Luffy can reshape the narrative of a pirate. And so I really do love the story of One Piece, what we're heading into. But I want to ask you guys, okay, so we got one super chat. He said, Flevin said, Sanji got a weird case. Why is he around? Krow, you got anything for that?
So anyway, let's check.
All right. But no, I saw a chat. They said, where is it? Oh, no, he said, what do you think is going to be Luffy's next power-up? And it caught my eye because, going back to the whole Gear 5 and Top Man stuff, do we think that Luffy needs another power-up to defeat a Gorosei? And, I've seen a lot of different theories floating around. Like, I saw one, I don't know if it was on Twitter or where it was, somebody said that Gear 5 is an awakening, but Luffy's final power-up will be basically like a power that can use inspiration of, like, sun abilities, similar to, like, light beams that Mother Flame uses, fire, how we saw with, I think we saw Red Rock, Red Hawk, stuff like that. So more like a fire-based, even more broken version of Gear 5. What do you guys think? Does Luffy need another power-up?
I think that Luffy just needs to focus on stamina and endurance.
Yes.
I think right now, at his peak, he can stand next to anyone in the verse, but his problem is that his peak is just too short. And once he figures that out, I don't know if he needs another power-up, to be honest. I mean, he might find some more creative ways to fight, but as far as, like, another gear or a new power, it's overkill, bro.
You
Jesus
don't
Christ.
you don't need it because Oda
Mm.
like said it himself. He's very excited to draw this form, and he can't wait. And I feel like the reason for that is because Oda, the whole point of Gear 5 is that Oda made the most broken ability for a mangaka's purpose. Like it is the most it's a mangaka's dream to have Luffy's power to do anything. So with that, Oda has the creative freedom and the creative liberties to do anything he wants in the story and use Luffy to achieve that purpose. So if there is anything that Oda imagines that he wants Luffy to do, Luffy can do. That's the whole point. But as Krow said, Luffy needs to worry about stamina, endurance in order to keep it further because it's kind of like the flip side now. Like although Luffy used to be this guy who like even though he's like a little 5'8" short dude, like who has like decent hockey and is just keeps getting back up and up and up again. Now he has broken abilities, but he's out after 5 minutes. So it's just a matter of figuring out how he can sustain it. And we see it in this like arc that he has the shark meat from Elbaf. So I'm pretty sure that Elbaf and the Giants have been pretty much workshopping on what they need and like what type of food specifically Luffy needs in order to get that stamina back up and keep going like Gear 5 to the point where he can literally do it forever almost.
Prince, I'm
I've
so
got an
glad you
interesting.
said that. I want to kind of jump off of that a little bit. I was in Dak's stream a day or two ago, just hating per usual. But I can't remember exactly who the person that said it, but it ties back to Flevins as well. You know, he brought up bringing up Sanji, and you know, with Luffy. One of the most passionate moments in the world is Luffy told Sanji straight up, like, "I can't be Pirate King without you." When if Sanji and Chopper find a way to make some type of food pill that Luffy could keep with him at all times, and that way he could, know like, yo, I'm about to get towards the end of my Gear 5. Let me, Toriyama going, let me pop this Senzu bean real quick, and then I'll be able to, max out a little bit longer. It's just, something else to add to it. I don't really think there's going to be another power up because I think now that we're at the end game, I'm not really expecting Luffy to do much other than like Krow said, expand on his imagination and his attacks. But if you find a way to just be able to let him fight longer and longer, he should be able to match anybody. But I still think at the end of the day, hockey is what's going to be the thing that beats him, puts him above everybody else.
Yeah, because hockey's willpower at the end of the day. And if Luffy has the strongest will of all to help people liberate themselves, change for the better, get them freedom that they want, that Luffy wants for others as well, then he's able to achieve limitless power. On top of his Gear 5, can do any type of ridiculous power that he wants. So it is very interesting to see like what Luffy's gonna do further. And I see Ulf near in the chat saying maybe Gear 5 would get different styles. He can get any style. That I feel like that's the true point of it, is that whatever style Oda chooses in that specific moment, Luffy can do. And right now, Luffy is doing like monkey type stuff. Very like copy and paste, very, oh, you did that? Let me try it. So you can see it in like his fight with the Gorosei right now, that he's returning back the venomous attacks that Saturn threw. He's doing these big ass punches on Top Man, although it's not working for now. But like, he can literally do whatever he puts his mind to, and that's the limit. And although Luffy is an idiot, his imagination is truly his greatest power.
I've got an interesting thought for you on how Luffy can learn to sustain Gear 5 for longer. The key to it is not a power up. It's not more haki. It's not Gear 6. It's not Gear 7. It's not Gear Reverse. It's rhythm. So it's a heartbeat. It's the drums of liberation. And what's happening is that Luffy is being knocked out of Gear 5 because the rhythm of the drums gets interrupted. So if he can learn to maintain the rhythm of those drums better, it will last longer. Preacher, I've just sent you a thread I wrote back in, I think that was 2022. The voice of all things and the music of the universe. This is the idea that the voice of all things ties to an idea from John Coltrane, Albert Einstein, and Stefan Alexander. There's a book called The Jazz of Physics, and John Coltrane has the idea of the circle of fifths, and Stefan Alexander comments that this circle of fifths, this sort of musical pattern, is very geometric, and it reflects almost string theory, the theory of the universe and how the universe is pulled together. And if we look at the circle of fifths, we can see that this structure is used in Bink Sake, the song. And then if you go to Pythagoras, you go to the Greeks, they had all of these ideas that the universe has music. It's got this sort of frequency. Everything in the universe has frequency. Even Einstein comments on this, that everything has a sort of atomic frequency. And if you can tune into this, that gives you, potentially in the One Piece world, this is exactly what we had with Zoro awakening. He can sense the stone. He can sense the trees. He can see his sword, even though it's all the way over there under a rock. Because all these things have this vibration. And if you can sync yourself perfectly to that rhythm, I think that's the key for Gear 5th, and him to be able to just sustain it almost infinitely, is syncing up with this rhythm.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree, because even Ulfnir is saying in the chat, Brook is going to accompany Luffy. Not Brook specifically, but the idea that Luffy at the very beginning of the story set out to want a musician. Very early, he's like, yo, I need a musician. And I'm like, out of all the things you would want, like, yes, he got a cook, but right after that, like, and a navigator, out of all the things he needed, like, there's so many different things. He set out for a musician first. And it's very interesting to me. And Joe, if you're right about keeping a rhythm, and Ulfnir also talked about, was it Ulfnir or someone else in chat? They were talking about, Ted Baxter saying, still holding on to the idea that Usopp is a true incarnation of Nika. Obviously, if you go back to the Skypiea chapter where the first pose is, you see Luffy's doing the Sun God Nika pose. Who's right behind him? It's Usopp, and he's playing the drums. So if Usopp or Brook or just the Straw Hats in general figure out that music is very important, and then they keep this like drum beat together, and they like understand that they need to like keep this drum beat alive for Luffy, that might be the power needed to sustain Gear 5. And if you look at it, that same like drum beat power to sustain Gear 5 is also within the ancient robot. Because as soon as the drum beat is heard to the ancient robot, he gets up, he starts up, and he's like, Joyboy, I'm sorry, but I'm here now. And then he goes on a complete, like, tear and, like, absolute chaos mode on Egghead. So I do agree that drum beat might be the key.
And Joe, you brought
Oda's
Go ahead.
Oda's thought this through a lot, because if you look at the One Piece logo itself, you've got the Jolly Roger of Luffy on the O. But if you change the shape of that, you consider it as just an O with an X through it. That is the musical notation for a cymbal or a hi-hat. And this was pointed out by Straw Hat UFO on Twitter about 2 years ago now. And Luffy even uses an attack, a dawn symbol, in a very recent chapter. So this idea of drums, the drums of liberation, actually has deep ties to real world musical culture. And this idea presented by Wynton Marsalis, very famous jazz musician, the idea of the 2-beat rhythm, and this rhythm, the 2 beats, bom, 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 is exactly the same as a heartbeat. So this idea of the importance of the drums.
We'll say that shout out to my channel, don't mean to plug, but I did make a video on this, and the drums are very specific to Dawn as well. I made this theory that the D in the Will of D stands for Dawn, not spelled D-A-W-N, but actually D-O-N. And also because of many things, like having a Dawn attitude. There's a huge thing. Your boy Frankie JJ, his flashback with Tom Saw, and he's talking about having a Dawn spirit to do things with the Dawn, be resolute with stuff. And it's a very important thing. And if you actually search up the onomatopoeia for Dawn in Japanese, it's a literal drum beat. The drum beat
Mhm.
onomatopoeia is like dawn in Japanese. So every time like a drum is banged, pause. It's literally making the sound dawn. So like if you like take that as you will, like there's drums,
This
the dawn liberation, the dawn is going to come soon. Like the Wano, like all these places talking about the new age, the sun coming up, a new dawn rising, like a new pirate era. It's very, very telling. So
you've also, if you consider the most important concept of inherited wills, what are the three most important inherited wills that we know of? The will of D, the will of O'Hara, and the will of Nika. DON.
Speaking of the Will of D, I think it was a comment, bro. I wish I could give credit to these people. I don't remember. I see a lot of stuff in my comments on Twitter, and I just don't remember everyone's name. But I did see somebody said a theory. What if the Will of D is actually Joyboy's laugh, and that's like his laugh was like DDD.
DDD.
I
That would be
like
interesting.
that. I like
That's
that.
reminding me of Soul. Derishi Shi.
Yeah,
That
I
might
thought that
be
was a pretty cool
link up there.
theory right
Speaking of
there.
still
But
alive and doing well. Oh, Saul. It's
All
gonna be
right,
such a great reunion and back in Elbath.
all right, fellas. I got to get out of here in a little bit, but before I leave, I want to ask Joe a couple things. I want to address
Go.
something actually.
let's do it.
All right, and we want to clip this and we gonna put it on Twitter every time somebody say this to you. Or X, as the cool kids call it these days.
Hey,
There is a, let's say, a prevalent idea, or at least response whenever Joe says a power scaling take that people don't agree with, that he should stick to theories.
Mm.
What is your response to those that tell you to stick to theories?
all right,
I
everybody get
normally say just no. Oh, yeah, let me do my thing. But as much as you might disagree, just think if you want to engage me in a debate, or you want to argue about it, I'm here. Argue with me. I've got way too much free time on my hands. That's more than reasonable, and I'm willing to have these discussions, even if I'm not trying to have an argument with everyone or just say you're wrong. I'm trying to hear people. I'm trying to say why do you think this? I don't want to hear stick to theories because it just sort of devalues one of the biggest parts of One Piece discussion is power scaling or agenda. And I feel like just because, okay, you might disagree, but tell me why.
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that.
because I think for me too, like when I talk to people on Twitter, I know a lot of people are just trolling and just like it could be a toxic place, but I genuinely try to have a discussion, bro, and I'm pretty open minded when it comes to these things. So I like, but I've had my mind change a little bit or like here and there over time, and so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And I think Joe, for the most part, he goes into it in a discussion standpoint. I don't know if you're trying to have your mind changed or whatever, but I do see that you actually at least engage and have reasoning for your opinions. And I think theory and power scaling is very similar. It's not exactly the same, but I feel like power scaling is in a way theorizing, especially when it comes to a series like One Piece, where there's so many different. I mean, it's how can you really know exactly how strong someone like Mihawk is when he hasn't really done too much? So
I mean, if you mix the like idea of a theory and the idea of power scaling, you mix them together. It's literally an agenda, and I feel like that's what how agendas were born, because it was quite literally a split in the One Piece community early on, like early 2020, 2021. That like it was power scaling, people solely obsessed with like the strength of characters and things like that, and theories, and like then afterwards, after the community meshed together, saw different perspectives and ideas, those ideas also mixed together, and it created a new genre, which was agendas. Because if you look at
For sure. And
base
my
agenda,
bad, I didn't get you.
so if you look at what an agenda really is, it's just predicting what will happen to a certain character in the future and what you think is going to happen, whether it's through power, strength, how they'll get stronger, how they'll be more relevant in the story, how they'll be more impactful in the story. So it's literally just a theory, but with power scaling mixed into it.
I think that when it comes to Jenna is more so. I want this character to be this strong for my own personal reasons. I don't, I'm gonna misconstrue the story and try to wrap it around my own way. You theorizing what's beneficial for your idea around your favorite characters, really. And with that being said, since we're talking about specific characters, you got a bad rap with the Sanji and the Shanks community, Joe. So I need to know like what's going on, man.
From the Mihawk perspective, the Shanks Mihawk perspective, that's really a 50-50. And my perspective there is I'm just going by what the story's told us. Mihawk is the world's strongest swordsman, and he is. Chapter I think 1058. They straight up just say Mihawk is better than Shanks, and I'm not trying to argue against the story itself. Maybe you can say, oh, it's skill, but then if you look at Zoro's progression in his sword skill, the whole thing he learned in the time skip, lesson 1. And the first and final lesson, you need Haki, because these sword skills, these basic sword skills, not enough. The only thing Mihawk taught Zoro was Haki. Okay, yeah, you're a great swordsman, you've done all this training, you've got all this Bushido stuff on lock, but if I hit you now with this sword, your swords are going to break, mine aren't, and you're dead, I'm not. So if you have these high-level swordsmen, these top-tier swordsmen, you've got Shanks, Mihawk, Fujitora, Vinas Jiro, maybe Garling, all these top tier guys, even Vista, these guys all use Haki, and that's like every power up Zoro's had since the time skip has been central to Haki. The whole thing with the Sanji stuff, again, I think it's just Sanji's one of my favorite characters in terms of character writing. I hold him up as top 10, maybe top 5 best written characters from Oda. He's way up there in the Straw Hats in terms of writing. But when it comes to power scaling, I just feel like we don't see enough of those power scaling things, rank this character strongest to weakest. Where you've got characters that it's more reasonable for Sanji to be compared to and be better than. Because every time I see one of these things, it's Yamato, Zoro, King, Law, Kid. And, you can argue if you're really a Sanji fan and you really got in the agenda, you might argue he's stronger than any of these people. But I would like to see some of those, but okay, yeah, keep King and maybe Katakuri in those conversations. But instead of Yamato, Zoro, Kid Law, who I think are just above the level of Sanji, they're at least one level higher. You need to introduce people like Lucci and Lucky Roo, Yasop. He just defeated Queen. What about Jozu? These are people I think it's more reasonable to say Sanji can win and be in the top 3 of that bracket.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hit a specific take I saw from you. Wano Sanji is Toby Roppo level. I wanted to respond to that one, but I knew you was coming on stream soon. Right? I was like, I'm gonna wait. I want to talk about
man,
this.
that's a hot one for sure.
So this is my thing with that take, and I respect your opinion is you're one of the more knowledgeable One Piece fans I've met. You know what I'm saying? And I think that when it comes to power scaling in One Piece, the biggest real issue is the sense of vagueness from Oda himself, because he has to make things work. He doesn't like to box himself in, right? I feel like that's a fact. And when it comes to people like Zoro and Sanji, certain things we're not gonna know, or we're not gonna have factualness behind it until it happens, right? Nobody would have believed that Sanji, who only got one power up, even before he got the power up, right, was pretty much dominating Queen without Ifrit Jumbe, right? So you're telling me he was YC2 nearly coming out of the post time skip. You feel me? And I feel like when it comes to the Toby Roppo stuff, when I look at that, I look at Sanji, I look at who lost to the Toby, who beat the Toby Roppo, and I see Frankie and Robin, which is no slight, right? They're strong characters in their own right. But me thinking that Sanji is Toby Roppo level before Wano is me saying that he's equal to them out of the time skip, because just like that, they really didn't get big power boosts either. So I think that Sanji is probably YC3 before Wano, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's wild.
Interesting point on that is that if you look at Wano, the Toby Ropo, especially Drake and Who's Who, are actually being offered the promotion to YC3 or YC2 from Kaido. If they can capture Yamato, get Yamato to come back, then Kaido says, you can challenge one of these All-Stars to a fight. This implies to me that the Toby Ropo are not a million miles away from the YC1, YC2 rank, which is Queen.
And I agree with that.
Jack.
For it's a spectrum, right? Toby Ropo is like just like Warlord. Like you say, somebody's Warlord level, you can go from Warrior to fucking Mihawk. So it's a spectrum. But I do think that there is a agreed upon level that we look at them as. That's what I do when it comes to power scale. Like when somebody says YC1 level, I look at Katakuri King and maybe like really those are the two defining factors of YC1 level to me personally. I think this is kind of a community-wide thing too. YC2, Queen, I guess Sanji at this point. And when I look at Todoroki, I looked at more so who Frankie beat? Sasaki, who's who. Like I don't look at the spectrum as a whole. I look at the medium point of the spectrum to more so represent a level. Right? Does that make sense?
That does.
So I guess it's more of a wording thing.
If we look at Sanji had a fight with Page One and with Drake. In the anime, he kicks Drake in the face and Drake is down. He's knocked out. In the manga, this very same scene, Sanji goes to kick Drake in the head, and Drake's tail just goes wham, whacks Sanji down to the ground, and then they don't fight anymore. Sanji just dips. And Page One, Sanji had the raid suit. He hit Page One, but Page One was still tagging him back. So I think the issue here was the Sanji was Toby Ropo level before Wano, is not that that's an insult. It's just the fact that people's perception of the Toby Ropo is that they're weak, and that's not the case.
I see that, and I agree with that to for the most part. I think that prolonged battles, he wins that. Just like Zoro with Hawkins, he would have easily beat Hawkins if it would have continued. So I don't like to look at small skirmishes because Oda be wilding with the Batman and Luffy shit too. Like, come on, what are we doing?
Overall, it comes down to Oda. He said he doesn't really care about power scaling, and he just does his thing.
And I think that when it comes to the rep that you have and against those communities, they're very sensitive. Everybody wants people to agree with them, and when you don't, you're a demon. If you say something right about it, they ignore the 20 times you say something they agree with. But as soon as you say something they don't agree with, oh, this guy's such an idiot. Stick to theories. Oh, I get it. Like, so I get it. I know it can be frustrating, especially as a content creator, man. But Sanji over King.
I mean, my guy says Sanji. I mean, top man is the top man. So how can y'all really disagree with anything he's saying? He's obviously full of logic. Like, come on now.
I've always said, the biggest problem with Sanji's portrayal, and it came down to, going on the Onigashima rooftop. If Sanji was there, I think people would give him more of a chance to be in that same tier with Zoro and Kid and everybody. But I feel like, and I do think he's there, but what I think is that I think that really hurt his portrayal, bro, because we talked about it before. Killer's up there, but Sanji's, fighting guys like a Queen. And I know he did fight King and Queen at the same time, but honestly, I don't think Sanji could defeat King. I think Zoro was able to do it, but I honestly don't. I think if you switch it, I don't think Sanji would have been able to pull it off.
With Ifrit or before Ifrit?
Either way, bro. Either way.
I think
it goes extreme diff, to be honest. I don't know.
I think the reason Oda kept Sanji off the rooftop in that scenario is because actually he awakened his genetic augmentations, and he's now got Ifrit Janbei, Blue Flames, enhanced power in every stat. But I think he kept him away from the rooftop because actually we haven't even seen the true potential of that yet, and that Sanji has only actually just begun to awaken the extent of those powers.
Yes.
If we look at when he puts the raid suit on, his attacks stop being named after food, like French words for food, and they start being named after stars, like shooting comet and this kind of thing.
Oh, and for sure, I love this theory.
If you look at the ship when Sanji escapes German Kingdom, the ship that he boards is called the Orbit. The shape of his eyebrows is the shape of a star's orbit, and his attacks now have the theme of stars. if we take this and we extrapolate it, we have a look at the lifespan of what a star. Okay, you've got comets, you've got small stars, regular stars, but stars have a whole life cycle. And I believe that Sanji's power, Oda is intentionally holding him back because of the truth. And this ties back to what I was speaking about before, about the lineage factors. And this was the reason they arrested Vegapunk in the first place. And it says, word for word, they felt threatened by this. They felt, whatever the implications of this was, they felt threatened by it enough to arrest Vegapunk, take him on board, make him work for them, and create the SSG, which led to the Seraphim. The Seraphim are supposedly the strongest creatures in the world. If we take this and apply to Sanji, Sanji is essentially a Seraphim, with the difference of he has his humanity, he has Haki, and this combined creates the idea that Sanji eventually, his tutor, his mentor, Blackleg Zeph, what is the ultimate state of a star? Either a supernova or a black hole. So you've got this massive potential for Sanji in the end game to take this concept of the progression of a star, where he's only just begun to have that. But by the end, you've got white dwarf, supernova, black hole, and this idea that Sanji...
Fire. I'm listening, my bad. I was just reacting, my bad. Out loud, I'm sorry.
That's cool. That's basically the gist of it, really, that Oda held back Sanji from the rooftop because if he fought someone like Kaido, even King, if he has that fight, the Haki Bloom has to happen. And when the Haki Bloom happens, it's a whole different level.
And this is why I kind of got away from the Sanji Conqueror's Haki side. I still think it's possible, but I'm very much more acceptance of it not happening because I think he's going to just explore a whole different power system with Sanji. He has his fun with Sanji when it comes to power.
It's not even possible. He's going to, because Joe mentioned it about the lineage factors and stuff, and then we talk about how Vegapunk's experimenting with devil fruits and all this and stuff. It's connected, right? And if you look in an SBS, I literally have it pulled up. I think I sent this to you like a little back a while ago, Krow, but it says, question in the SBS, do all devil fruits have that swirly pattern on them? And Oda says, yes, they do. That's one of their featured themes. There are times that
Oh, jeez, he disconnected in the middle of sentence. All right, well, I'll just pick up from that. Basically, he said it to me, and it was Oda basically says you can think of Sanji as a devil fruit, in his jokey, trolly ways. But at the same time, there's always something there whenever Oda does that. So especially and then last SBS, he said literally look like pay attention to Sanji. There's more coming.
That connects directly as well to the idea that lineage factors are how Vegapunk recreated Kaido's devil fruit that Momono has, and he made the green blood. So this idea, as you were saying, Sanji having this lineage factor stuff essentially makes him a devil fruit, where he is the incarnation of humanity. And what is the main trait of humanity is to have dreams, to wishes, and you can attach that again to the concept of stars. Wish upon a star, all that stuff. Oda has thought this through from the start.
Sure.
Krow, you got anything else, or you still got time, or what?
No, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna just say it was nice to meet you, Joe.
Nice to meet you too, bro.
I wanted to, have you address those Twitter trolls because there's always something I see every time I open up. And, you might see a lot of stuff that even I might disagree with, but I'll never say just stick to things. That's just dumb, bro. So yeah.
Krow, I appreciate you coming through though, bro. Even though it's the phone, bro, like you still made the time, bro. I know you're busy right now, and it's a Saturday, it's a weird time, but I appreciate you coming through, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna get ready to go head out for some Mother's Day stuff, take my
Appreciate you, bro.
I don't know if y'all heard him in the background.
Let's get it. Anti-Laboon League.
Yes, sir.
Wait, Krow, who do you think's gonna win, the Nuggets or the Timberwolves? Real quick.
Nuggets in 7, but you talking about the next game?
No, I'm saying the series.
Not Nuggets. I meant Timberwolves. I'm sorry, Timberwolves in 7.
Okay.
Even though there's some weird stuff going on in the NBA, why they gave them so much time between their games? It's almost like they're trying to.
It's like a week.
Let Jamal Murray
Yeah,
I
bro.
don't know.
You give them 2 games at home, and then you give them a couple of days so that
It's
you
like
can also
5
get the
days.
games on the weekend, and everybody can lock in. Like, what you
Nah,
mean?
they
This
was
is
trying to
perfect.
give
Schedule
Jamal
is perfect.
Murray enough time to get healthy. I know what's going on, bro.
Why didn't he get suspended? That's the main thing.
Exactly. They didn't suspend him, then they give him a whole week to get healthy. I'm familiar with your game, Adam
I'm
Silver.
glad he was suspended.
Yeah, he was cooking them in the first half, bro. It
I
was
mean, you saw some shit on the stage. I mean, on the court. Like,
You
come
didn't
on.
hit him with
I
no
mean,
groin. You got to hit
quite
somebody
literally.
below the belt to get suspended.
If someone were to land on that and slip and get injured, that is quite literally Jamal Murray's
yeah, and
fault.
I would
So,
normally say Rudy Gobert. He definitely earned his award, but bro, they played better defense without him. Just straight up.
They cooked it. I think that the
I
niggas
think
sleepwalked into
they
that
had-
game thinking they had an easy dub, and they just got smacked in the face. But yeah, let me get out of here. Let me get out of here. Appreciate y'all boys for having
All right,
me.
bro.
Take it easy, bro.
Hopefully next week I'm on my PC and we, get this moving situation done. But yeah, all right. Appreciate y'all.
All right, Chad.
Be
Make sure
safe,
you
y'all.
like the stream. We gotta get to
Yeah.
65. Oh, you got something else?
Before I leave, I just dropped a new Tekken video a couple of days ago. If you play, yeah, Big Shaheen in the chat. If you play Tekken, check it out. I'm gonna be playing for pretty much every character, making content on them. So yeah, tap in,
Go
tap in, tap in.
subscribe.
I'll be checking it out for sure.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
All right, go
y'all.
check. I put the link in the chat. Go check him out. Go subscribe to his channel. Make sure you like the stream if you haven't already. And now I want to jump into, I think, what I'm most excited to talk about this chapter. I'm biased for sure, but the more and more I think about what's happening in One Piece, we have a few videos on this channel. Shout out to Ors. He did one of them. I did the Esteban Child of Sun video. He did the Moo video. And we got some more coming out soon on this entire topic. But I am really I'm like 99% sure that Oda was inspired. Bro, I'm 100% sure, honestly. This guy was inspired by Moo, by maybe not the Esteban Child of the Sun stuff. I'm pretty confident in that too, but I'm 100% sure he is confident. Or I'm 100% sure he was inspired by Moo for the Ancient Kingdom. Now, in this chapter, I want to talk about the Mother Flame, which we're going to have a big discussion on here. This reveal was kind of crazy, bro, and to see a liquid flame, or a flame in this liquid, how do you describe this? Like what is it? Like a, I forgot what this is called. Like, what do you call what the Mother Flame is inside of?
Like an incubation tank or something?
Yeah, like a
Chamber.
tank. Yeah, a chamber. Yeah. So like that, bro. This is pretty crazy, right? And on this chamber, it says A and Mu. And at first, I was like, oh, that's probably like some science thing or something that I missed. But then some guy comes and tweets at me, A and Mu could stand for Atlantis and Mu. And if you guys watch those videos, you'll know that the whole theory is that there was Atlantis, one kingdom that fought against Mu in the past, a great war where they destroyed themselves, and the energy source they had was this like eternal sun that would power the entire civilization, an ancient energy source. And so what I'm thinking now is Mother Flame is like a prototype to that, because we know Vegapunk is researching the Void Century, the Ancient Kingdom, and we can kind of understand that if these kingdoms were wiped out, like let's say like the Minx kingdom was just wiped out, and that's why they had to live on Zunisha, or Fishman Island was originally they lived on a different kingdom or an island that got wiped out. So there was maybe something even more powerful than Mother Flame in the past. And so I'm really starting to think that since Vegapunk is just kind of looking back at what the technology they had and recreating it, that this is definitely a prototype to what they had. So you guys got any thoughts on that? I really recommend you guys check those videos out if you haven't already. Like I said, I'll be making another video kind of even going further. We're going to be going into what I think the One Piece is. So make sure you subscribe to that. That's going to be a big video. Oris is working on some stuff as well on his own channel. But what do you guys think about like this whole Mother Flame stuff?
On the subject of A and Mu, I've got a couple points there. First of all, on the idea of Mu, the Kingdom of Mu, I've got to give a shout out to Merlin and Xavi The first two
Erlen.
people
Yeah,
I've
shout out
seen.
Merlin, bro. He's been hitting me up all week, bro. It's been some fun conversations I've had on Twitter with him.
These are the first guys I've seen point out this law of like their ability to do research different level, and they have some great theories on subjects of Mu, the kingdom of Mu, and how Odin potentially was inspired. It even goes down to the symbol that we see of the sun surrounded by the 8 dots, and this potentially being the central kingdom and 8 kingdoms surrounding it. But then there's another theory. You touched on the idea of Atlantis and Mu, but I've seen other posts that suggest that the way you pronounce the "and" symbol in Japanese is two, and this would say A to Mu or atom, and this would be a play on the atom bomb, which ties again to Einstein, Oppenheimer. You know, we've all seen the Oppenheimer film. We all know he was mates with Einstein, and Einstein helped him to produce the A bomb. And there's another idea where this idea of Mu. If we go back to, I think it's Drum Island, where you've got what was his name? Hirilu, Dr. Hirilu. He's talking about inherited will. You know the famous speech: "When does a man really die? Is it when he gets shot in the head? No. Is it when he eats poison soup? No. Is when he gets forgotten." And then Dalton says something quite interesting. Is it the same for a country? I think this is chapter 145. I'm looking at it now. Dalton says, is that also true for a country? Implying that Drum Island, you know, what's going to happen to us? And then Glover says, if there's someone to inherit his will, so if we take the idea that Mu was a kingdom, but then we look at when we have Emu talking to Cobra, he calls himself Mu. If we attach these two ideas of you can inherit the will of a country, not just people, you can inherit the will of countries, Mu that would then represent the inherited will of the kingdom of Mu, and has, in such a way, just replaced their own real name with Mu, M-U. And if we go to the A in that, we, you know, thinking back to the whole connection with the lineage factors and the Lunarians and the Seraphim, King's real name is Alba. So if you've taken this Lunarian ability, the flame ability of the Lunarians, the A could stand for Alba, or perhaps he has an ancestor with another, you know, a name beginning with A. And then Mu, of course, would be Emu himself. And this idea that you can combine lineage factors of two different people to create this sort of sentient element.
So, Joe, so it's interesting, like, so because you brought up Albert, that flame does look a lot like King's flame. I've also seen people say it also could look similar to Luffy's. What do you think about, like, do you think it's more connected to Luffy's hair or Luffy's, like, sun god situation going on, or do you think it's more towards the Lunarians, or do you think it's even maybe a mix of both?
There's a connection there, I think, with the lineage factors. If you look at Luffy in Gear 5, he has the red eyes and white hair. And if you look at the Minx in Sulong, red eyes, white hair. Then if you look at Hody Jones when he ODs on these energy steroid pills, red eyes, white hair. And then the Lunarians, at least King himself, white hair. We haven't seen him go into any kind of rage mode, but his eyes go red. But this idea of this being a sort of primal state for all kinds of living beings, which again would tie into the idea of the right at the start of the arc, you get Lilith saying, oh, this experiment was a failure, it's impossible to remove the primal desires, which implies that it's impossible to entirely remove free will from a person or from any living being, which then itself ties into Kuma and actually Frankie and Sanji as well.
I will say I did make this connection a while back with the whole red eyes and white hair thing, because if you look at it, it also pretty much reveals another huge element of the story, and that's road poneglyph locations. If you see those connections, you got Hody Jones, the Fishman pills, obviously. It seems to be a sort of artificial version of Gear 5's power. And obviously, Hody trying to abuse it, it didn't work out. He aged afterwards extremely horribly, permanently. So you can see the lasting side effects that pill had, and it didn't necessarily work, even though they try to replicate Gear 5's power. And that's where the first road poneglyph was. Then you see the Mink tribe. They have electricity, red eyes, white hair. It shortens their life force whenever they use Sulong. It's tied to the moon. And at the exact same time, if they use it too much, they might, lose their life. Just like Luffy might, like if he goes overboard with Gear 5. Second road poneglyph, it's at Zoe. You see the third connection with Lunarians. You see them have black wings, like a specific race that's been pretty much eliminated by the world government, seen as like some forbidden race almost. And they have white hair, and then like you said, we don't know if Albert can go rage mode at some points and have that red eyes. But if I think there might have been certain animation frame, which I have to go back and check Zoro versus King, but there might have been points where he actually might have had red eyes. But if you look back and see that, there's another connection with the Lunarian race, and lo and behold, there's a road poneglyph at Wano. And there's huge connections to Dawn, Luffy's whole being as a person who brings the Dawn, connected to Wano, the huge Toki prophecy and whatnot. And then there's Elbaf, honoring him as Sun God Nika. So you can see those connections of Sun God Nika with the tribes essentially that believed in Sun God Nika, or this whole Joyboy myth and tale. And you can see that the road poneglyph locations are also there. From Fishman Island to Zoe to possibly Elbaf, Wano. Possibilities are endless at this point.
It's interesting that you mentioned that all of these powers affect their age or their lifespan, because that draws a connection to Bonnie and her power.
And the fact that she's able to draw a future that she needs in order to understand.
She can affect people's lifespans.
Exactly.
Also, this might be, you might have touched on a clue to the man marked by flames. So if this is a pattern that we can establish, that all the road poneglyphs belong to locations where we have these races that have the red eyes, white hair attributes. Maybe there's a clue in the manga somewhere that this actually ties back to a different country. It might be a clue to the identity of the man marked by flames, or the island that they can be found on. I'm going to have to investigate that.
The man marked by flames could very well just be Vegapunk, if you kind of think about it.
I've been on that agenda since the beginning, since we heard about it. But there's the whole thing of the punk hazard's explosion that happened 4 years behind the current timeline.
Yeah, and I feel like, do you guys? Because I do think that Vegapunk can read the poneglyphs. Is that a hot take? I feel like that's.
I think that got established in the latest chapter, that he actually has read not just one, but several of them.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. So I wouldn't be surprised if, the Gorosei seem to know that he has so much information on the poneglyphs, and that's why they're going after him. York exposed it, but at the same time, it's if he found one of them, it's bro, this guy is going too deep. He at this point, I feel like you have to just kind of assume that he is looking for them. So I think him being the man marked by flames, it's definitely possible. And that would also be interesting. Blackbeard pirates were at A-Kid, right? And we don't know why they were there. It seems like they came through, got what they needed, and left. We still don't know what they wanted, right? If they were looking for a poneglyph, they were looking for something connect to help them find it, or there's a lot of different possibilities. So yeah, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, and they also were able to copy Saturn's identity as well. So
yeah, we know the Blackbeard pirates are looking for the man marked by flames too. We saw that. So
I think in that case that ties to how Blackbeard was trying to use Kobe as a bargaining chip to get his own place made into the kingdom, the pirate island made into a kingdom. so that he can use that as a launch pad to become king of the world. He doesn't know that they captured Garp at this point. Like, I'm sure he'll learn about that very soon, but he doesn't know they captured Garp. And Garp himself would be a great bargaining chip. But I think that actually he made a fail-safe plan. Well, okay, I can't use Kobe because he's with swords, and they'll just say, we don't care, he's disavowed, take him. You know, he's part of swords.
Yeah.
But then if you have Saturn himself, well, he can pretend that he's captured Saturn. So he doesn't actually have to capture Saturn literally. You can get the Katarina Devon to copy Saturn, pretend to beat him, pretend they captured him, and say, now we've got one of your top 5 guys. Give me what I want.
No, yeah, I
I
mean,
wanna
They manipulate it in
go ahead.
any which way.
JJ.
I just wanted to jump back into that Mother Flame. First thing first, I just want to say, like, this panel is absolutely beautiful. Like, the time, this just looked like they just took so much time and devotion into this panel, and it's understood with the importance of it. But when I look at that Mother Flame, I remember, I think, like, they're putting things in our face without us, like, really paying attention to it. As they're introducing the Mother Flame, you literally got, Vegapunk saying, but I flew too close to the sun. I wouldn't be surprised personally if this was Vegapunk finding some way to encapsulate solar power and being able to hold on to it. I'd imagine
Yep.
if you had yourself a sun, it would be strong enough to be able to last within some water. But at the same time, I remember when Lilith was, introducing the Straw Hats to Egghead Island, and they were talking about the need of resources and everything. And Lilith was just giving information to Frankie. She was literally saying if we had enough resources, we could make our own sun. So I just imagine, Vegapunk just continued to do more and more research, try to figure out stuff. He wasn't able to do it at the level that he wants to. You already know with Momo's fruit, if it doesn't look exactly like Kaido's, he considers it a disappointment. So he may just see this Mother Flame as something like, a project that he started that he hasn't been able to complete yet. He doesn't really have the pride then, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is solar power. And going back to what Prince said, this having the same kind of drum sound effect that Luffy has in his heart, him being the sun god, I could definitely see them two correlating.
Exactly.
You know-
And also, if you look at the title for this chapter, The Wings of Icarus. Preach and I were talking about it earlier before the stream started, but we're talking about the myth of Icarus and like just the whole story in general. He was the son of Daedalus, and they were pretty much the creators of the labyrinth. And while trying to escape from the labyrinth, because they were accused by King Midas that they were helping other people trying to like actually get through the labyrinth, they created a plan to create wings for Icarus for him to fly out. And the whole point of the story was that Icarus was supposed to not fly too low or too high, because if he flew too low, he would go straight into the sea and drown. And if he flew too high, he would fly too close to the sun, and his wings would end up melting. So if you see from that point of view, Icarus couldn't go too high or too low and had to stay pretty much at that same level. And I feel like it's a direct correlation to Vegapunk saying that, like, even though like he was able to get to this like the top to the point where like he was able to get all this knowledge about the ancient kingdom, pretty much research, get power energy sources, do all these things to help and like fly towards the sun, he flew too close. And now he's getting punished for it at this point and pretty much is about to die. So he's using that and his story and his life as a way to kind of convey to the entire world pretty much that stay cautious, stay like vigilant, like you can't fly too close to the sun, but there is a revolution coming for sure. And it's very interesting too that Oda is using the story of Icarus because it's mentioning two very important things: the sea and the sun. And I feel like that is extremely intentional, especially considering that the sea is rising according to Vegapunk and Luffy is the sun god.
Yeah, and I love that JJ, you brought up the conversation with who was it, Frankie and Lilith. Yeah, Lilith. So like in that chapter, she says that they want to create a sun, right? But I really do think that was like how we said, the the energy source that the ancient kingdom used, this like they created some kind of sun, they managed to create one. But it's also interesting that if you look at the mother flame, Lilith also tells him the entire island of Aked is ran on fire. And at that time, like, we didn't really understand what that meant exactly, but now it's just so good that it was all connecting now with Mother Flame, where you have this like godly looking flame that's it seems like this flame is really what's powering up the entire island, which I think was just really cool foreshadowing if we look back on it.
I think it also ties into this idea of Vegapunk wanting to create an energy source that can be infinite for the whole world to use. But then this energy source being manipulated into a weapon by York and the Gorosei ties directly to the idea of when they discovered atomic energy, the first thought was, oh, this is fantastic, we can use this as an energy source. But then the immediate thought that followed that was, we can make bombs out of this.
Yeah.
And then it became a race to make who can make the atom bomb first, because it became inevitable that everyone had the same idea. We need to make it first, because if they make it first, we're done. And I think that's just, again, tying back to Einstein and Oppenheimer, that's the inspiration to the idea there that Oda's used.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like,
and interesting
with the ancient kingdom, right, and whoever else was involved in it. It's almost like showing if we're living in an apocalyptic world in One Piece, right, or we're witnessing that, it's almost to show to learn from the mistakes of the past of what happens when there's actually a full-on nuclear war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, what I find very like chilling to me is the fact that Oda's timing with his story could not get any better, because in the real world, like if you actually look at news articles and stuff, the same shit is actually happening to us right now. And it's not obviously to the point where like there's literally a Luffy who has like rubber powers in our world. Obviously not. But if you look at like news articles and stuff, like you can see scientists discovering a heartbeat in the sun like a year back, which was crazy. And now apparently a bunch of places from Dubai making fake rain, just like Alabasta, and getting flooded, to places in I think Argentina or Brazil, I forgot which one it was, but getting flooded, places in China flooding, Venice already being a place to be one of the first cities in the world that's going to be flooded entirely. Like, this is really real. Like, Oda, I don't know what you have planned, but he has something in mind, and like the story is getting almost too real to a certain point. So it is getting a bit nuts.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean,
I think
Oda.
that ties.
Oh, go ahead.
That ties to the whole idea of like Water 7, directly inspired by Venice in the real world.
Oh, yeah.
Wano is based on Japan. So Oda, he has a very in-depth awareness of current and distant politics and real-world events and mythology.
Yes,
The whole idea of when we look at when Sabo escapes from Reverie and he goes back to Dragon and Ivankov, he starts telling them what happened. And Ivankov says, look at this book. And talks about Emu, Nerona Emu, and the origins of the world government, and the idea that Emu potentially, lied to them or manipulated them and took over control. The title of that book is Genesis, and then that ties the idea of the Great Flood, the Noah's Ark, is in the Old Testament book of Genesis. Oda's definitely tying those things together.
Yeah. All right, so before we go on to the next topic, make sure you guys like the stream. We have a bunch of people in here. Shout out to Joe, man. I see a lot of people from. It seems like a lot of your fans, bro. A lot of your Twitter fans. You built a really great community over there, and you got a lot of loyal fans. So, shout out to that.
I appreciate everyone stopping by.
Yeah, man. Okay, I see. Oh, so one super chat. It said John Smith says, Oh, okay, so it's about the Age of Discovery, Preach. In the U.S. Oh, no, he said about the Age of Discovery. In the U.S., they teach it as The Age of Exploration. Okay, so yeah,
Yep.
it's a different name.
It's pretty
Um,
much the like early things of just simple wants and fascinations of the different world, where the British wanted, funnily enough, spices from India, yet they never used it in their cooking. So sorry, Joe. I had to say it. I had to say it. But uh, at the same time, like that invoked exploration, and because of that, they were able to explore the world, and from that, they were able to explore different lands, different cultures, identities, things like that. Obviously, didn't go so well in our time, and it led to things like conquistadors, actual conquerors. That's where you get, like inspirations of Mihawk's character, who is a literal conquistador. So, like that actual stuff and correlations, because technically speaking, those explorers and people who wanted to find different things from different lands were technically the first pirates. So if you look at it from that point of view, that a pirate, like the origin of one, was quite literally
yeah,
just an explorer.
I
It doesn't make
like the
sense.
way that Oda's bringing in all these eras of pirates, like, or I guess his own interpretations of it. Like, we have the Age of Discovery, how we're talking about now, and like even with Elbaf, right? Like Elbaf, it seems like it's Vikings. So, and we're gonna get to Elbaf here right, soon enough. But yeah, just like I like how Oda's using a lot of different things. We know that Oda loved Vikings since he was a kid. We know he loves pirates. I saw one more chat I want to address. Joe, what do you think the One Piece is? Do you have a good theory on that?
I've got two different theories on that. I think it has certainly something to do with music. We've just discussed the drum beat, Gear Fifth, the voice of all things, the frequency of the universe. It almost certainly has something to do with Big Sake and this idea of delivering some kind of inheritance, some kind of will. But I think strong theory. I've seen other guys theorize this as well. It has something to do with music, and this ties in even to the One Piece logo having a drum symbol on the O. That's
Yeah.
the musical notation for drum symbol. The second theory, I think Vegapunk actually said it in this chapter. History is a story, and that this whole concept, the main theme in One Piece, is the way you preserve truth, the way you preserve history, is not through books, is not through song, is not through anything else. It's through oral storytelling. And Nolan the liar actually was telling the truth, but the book called him a liar. His story was a lie. Roger said when he found the One Piece, the laugh tale, it's a funny story. And then if you go to the idea that Oda was perhaps inspired by the story of Dante's Divine Comedy, this is a tragic story, but it's ironically considered a comedy. So I think the One Piece itself is a sort of reflection of the truth, and it is a treasure in such a way that because it's true is the truth. It's a funny story because of the irony, and the One Piece itself, maybe it has something that comes alongside it, but the One Piece will be, I think, a musical story in some kind of way.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of manga, like there's a lot of people who are like manga elitists in the One Piece community, which it makes sense, right? Like you have a lot of issues with the anime, but I always say when it comes to the music, which seems like being sake, and if what you're saying is true, the music is so important to the One Piece, then I think the anime is gonna have to be the big moment, right? Because it's gonna be amazing in the manga, no matter what the One Piece is. But there's only so much you can do when it comes to music in a manga.
Facts.
Mm.
Which is why I feel
I
like
think-
Oda times anime episodes so well, because if you really do look at it, there's many moments in time where Oda has timed an anime episode to drop exactly information that he wants with that manga chapter in correlation of that week, and it's astounding to see.
Preach, I've just tagged you, sent you in DMs.
Yeah.
A theory I wrote quite a while ago, how music reveals the ancient kingdom. the idea that basically going back into the idea of the music of the universe and how everything has a frequency, the voiceable things and all that. The idea that the ancient kingdom is not an island, it's not a continent, it's a solar system.
Oh shit, a solar, bro. That would be a crazy reveal. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that is like, to me, bro. That's like I don't. Have you seen Hunter x Hunter?
Some of it, I fell off before Greed Island.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I won't go into too much then. But yeah, there's like some cool stuff in Hunter x Hunter later on, but in One Piece, bro, it's like
I need to.
Yeah, bro, you gotta catch up,
pick
bro.
Up again, Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter x Hunter. I don't know. I think most people in the chat have seen it. I feel like it's one of the bigger shonen, but yeah, it's got some cool stuff. The further and further you go,
there's also a detail in this thread that I wrote that someone else picked up on. Let me have a look in my bookmarks. I think I saved it in my references. Part of the thread I show is discussing how in music you can see these geometric patterns, like I spoke about in the other thread, like the circle of fifths. This also appears in the Fibonacci spiral. And someone pointed out, I think, Soulstorm pointed out the atom observation, but then Joyboy TV pointed out S108, written on the Mother Flame, holds significance in Buddhism, but also according to the Italian mathematician Fibonacci, 108 represents the wholeness of existence.
Yeah, Fibonacci is like the number that connects life, right?
Oh yeah, that's what Mr. Bushido was saying.
Connects all life, yeah.
I'm gonna tag you in that as well, because I think that's a very cool observation. It also links everything back to Sanji as well, the Fibonacci spiral.
Yeah. I see this. I see your post. It has like the devil fruit swirls and the eyebrows. Yeah, bro, this is actually dope, bro.
So I think the idea of Oda's using the spirals as a clue, also Sanji's association with aliens, this all combines together to suggest that the One Piece world is only one of the worlds actually in the grander scheme of things, and that the One Piece, or the Ancient Kingdom, is or was an entire civilized solar system.
It would make sense to like the Minks, right? Let's just take the Minks. Why there's so many different races, right? If we can already say the Lunarians and the Skypians and these different wing races are from the moon, or from at least from space in some way, it would make sense that the other races could be too, and they all just came to Earth and now have this civilization here. I mean, it makes sense, bro. Go ahead.
I think it's also implied, if we go back to O'Hara, I think chapter 597, you have the scene of Clover showing Robin it seems to be a heliocentric, I don't know what the word is, for like a diagram of the planets. And everyone at first assumed that this is the planet of One Piece and several moons surrounding it. But what if it's not a heliocentric or geocentric diagram? It's actually a sorry, I'm getting confused between heliocentric and geocentric. So, supposedly, the Earth is the center of the universe. In geocentric philosophy, Earth is the center. But then you've got the idea of, actually, no, the Earth is not the center of the universe. We're in a solar system. So if you apply this idea, what they have here is that it's presented that actually this isn't just a planet and several moons surrounding it. It's an entire solar system, but the sun at the center has been extinguished.
Okay, so wait, so this is like, because we see Clover has this model, and this has always been in theories, how you said. So, like with the whole idea that the Earth was the center of the universe, that was always a theory that I guess now is seen differently, right? So do you think Clover figured out the truth about that, or do you think like he was? Because I mean, if it's part of the ancient kingdom, right? Like it seems like Clover would be the guy to kind of understand it.
I think they didn't quite get that far. I think they learned the name of this kingdom and they learned the truth. I think they perhaps learned or began to learn the truth between geocentric and heliocentric theory, but they didn't quite get that far before they were killed.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense too. I mean, and I guess you could even say maybe Vegapunk is starting to expand on Clover's theories, right? Like he would be if Vegapunk is the smartest person, he would go above and beyond, and kind of carry on his will too.
Yeah.
Also, if Egghead is based on the ancient kingdom, Vegapunk has sort of been trying to copy them. Why are there so many spaceship style things in it? Like everything in Egghead is like spaceships, rocket ships.
Yeah.
Like new inventions, things like that. Even if you look at the top of Egghead, it literally looks like the sun symbol that like many of the different kingdoms that are tied to the ancient kingdom like have and use, whether it's Wano, Alabasta, Fishman Island. Like it is very, very similar.
Even the lightsaber, right? Like if we go back to what that's, I mean, Star Wars, and then you have these like space wars and everything going on. So I could definitely see it, bro. You know, the further we go into this sci-fi theme, I think the more credibility that gets. And wait, was that both theories, or was there another one?
So I sent you one from Joyboy TV pointing out the S18 with the Fibonacci spiral, and then there's the how the music reveals the ancient kingdom. Previously to that, there was the other one, the voice of all things and the music of the universe.
Ooh, yes, interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna be dropping my One Piece theory soon. So and it's different, but you know that's the thing with the One Piece, bro. You got so many different possibilities. But what I will say is Oda has I really, you know, it used to blow my mind to think that he planned everything, and I don't think he planned everything in detail. But I think for these big things, like with certain things like Joyboy, he at least had the idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With the One Piece too,
I think
you know, it's kind of like because in my video I'm going to be looking back into early arcs where we see early foreshadowing for what the One Piece treasure could be.
First of all, be sure to share that with me. Sorry, I'll let other people speak. I've been speaking a lot.
Oh no, yeah, but it's gonna be. I think I'll drop in like a month from now. I'll definitely send it to you. But yeah, bro, no, those are some fire theories, man. Okay, so I'm trying to see if there's any more chats to address. All right, so
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So I've been seeing, you know, I feel like this has been brewing a little bit more, at least on Twitter, and it's people just thinking Akainu got ulterior motives when it comes to the world government. Yeah. And then, you know, when you see him in this chapter, you know, hearing this information from Vegapunk, I don't think he really has any reason to think Vegapunk is flexing or, you know, making up anything. I was wondering if everybody else, are you guys under the impression or maybe willing to predict that Akainu may do something to maybe, you know, try to overthrow the Gorosei or try to separate himself, maybe make another branch of the government or something, because I'm sure he's not pleased about what he's listening to right now.
See, if he does something, I feel like his first step would be to go towards Fujitora. And I find that extremely hilarious because Fujitora was the one who's like, I have to save some phase 2. I can't just be, you know, going anywhere. I can't just apologize to Akainu. So it'd be extremely funny if Akainu's the one who has to come to Fujitora and say, all right, my bad, bro. I apologize. Even though you didn't catch Luffy in law, I apologize. We got to figure shit out because this sinking thing is nuts. So I feel like Akainu definitely has something planned because he's not the type to just like sit around and hear the truth and like have multiple pieces of evidence and not think for himself. Because he is decently smart. He can. And
we've seen Akainu, right? Like he didn't, when we saw the Gorosei with Akainu in the same room, it didn't look like it was a friendly confrontation. I mean, Akainu does not want to be the way I see Akainu, he wanted the position of power to have control and power, and he wants the decision making, And when you realize that there's people that control everything, I can definitely see what JJ's saying. Like there is a potential. There's a very likely potential where the Marines are a separate entity from the world government, and I would say it's getting closer and closer. Even the revolutionaries said our enemy is not the Marines, right? It's specifically the Celestial Dragons. So I can see
Also,
that for sure, bro.
What
if
I
we
find
tie
even
in-
more interesting is the reactions of certain young celestial dragons to the point where they don't even know the whole story.
Yeah.
They don't know what's happening in the Void Century. And I feel like that is also funny in a way, because if you really think about it, if the whole idea of a story like or a will, like if it's there, it's only if it's forgotten, right? That it truly disappears. If you keep not telling a story through generations, it eventually ceases to exist, and that's what they try to do with the Celestial Dragons. If like the young ones don't even know what happened in the Void Century, so I do find that very interesting. Even though they have power, they shouldn't know how they abused to get it in the first place.
Yeah.
Also, if we attach the idea of Akainu potentially rebelling, I think it was Clear Cut pointed out to me the potential of Akainu being based on, I can't remember the name of the mythology, but it's basically the idea of a hellhound. I think it's a Norse mythology. A hellhound that essentially breaks its chains and rebels
Oh,
in
Fenrir?
the end. I think it's Fenrir. I'm
It's
not
like
sure.
that.
Let
Or is it, I
me
think
try and
Fenrir is
find
the
it.
wolf from
Yeah,
Norse
Fenrir's
mythology.
Fenrir's
Loki's.
a wolf.
Yeah.
I need to try and find it. I do have it saved. But
Oh,
also, if we take the idea of Oda is a massive Star Wars fan, and there's tidbits here and there, like the Pacifista they are the clones from the Clone Wars. Like it's literally this like
Yeah.
a homage to that. We take the idea of, okay, Akainu, he's not going to join Dragon per se. He's not going to directly align with Dragon because he still disagrees with Dragon and the Revolution. But there is the idea of the Navy becoming or wanting to establish independence from the rule of the world government and the world nobles. If you go look at Star Wars, the whole cause of the Clone Wars was because the Separatists were trying to get away from the Empire, and they established the clone army behind their backs, and then framed up the Jedi to start this whole war. And just apply that idea to One Piece and the Navy, and you have this idea of a rift in the Navy where you end up with two factions of the Navy. You've got separatists and the loyalists. Loyalists almost certainly being led by Green Bull, and the separatists at first being led by Fujitora, and then Akainu in the center of those two. Which way will he lean? Currently, he's sort of, he's still authoritarian, but eventually he's going to face a choice. Who do I hate more? Dragon and the Revolution, or the shameful corruption of the world government, who are just manipulating us and using us as their puppets? The Marines are only the face of the world government, is what the Gorosei say to his face. And we don't care about your honor. We don't care about your dignity. Which side will Akainu choose? He's going to end up choosing the separatists. Like, okay, I've had enough of this. The Navy need to be independent of the world government and these world nobles because they're just corrupt. They're just using us. We need to be able to do our own thing without them going behind our backs and making deals with these pirates. So Akainu, I think, will eventually. He won't be a revolutionary as such, but he'll be a separatist.
I can see that. That makes sense.
Yeah, I've been saying for a while, man. Like Oda's definitely inspired with Star Wars, and I mean you can see it more and more, especially in A-Kid. We brought the lightsaber, but even how you said the clones, the Seraphim, and even Sanji, bro. I feel like Sanji is. I made a video on it before where Sanji, I think, could be an example to. I don't know if you've seen the Clone Wars, Joe. Have you seen the whole series?
I haven't actually. I've been meaning to watch that.
Yeah, I think that's honestly maybe my favorite series of all time, the Clone Wars. But there's like a thing where Sanji, I connected it to Sanji, where there's a clone in the Clone Wars who kind of strays from the path, and I kind of said that was Sanji. But and there's more. I just don't want to spoil everything for you if you do watch it. But yeah, like I 100%
I can
agree,
see that.
bro. There's
That would also
definitely
tie
connections.
into that would also tie into how Sanji, like a lot of people don't really notice this because it's only really in the cover pages and small details in his backstory. Like the ship that he boards is called the Orbit, and in several different cover stories you see Sanji stargazing. You know, he's looking for a telescope at space. Him and Usopp are chilling and watching the stars. There's lots of instances of this, even down to his eyebrows being the shape of the orbit of a star.
Yeah.
Definitely believable that Sanji has association with inspiration from Star Wars.
But let me.
There's also,
I want to ask
sorry,
you,
carry on.
bro. How do you? Because I feel like, you know, you have a lot of knowledge and like you look at the little details, bro. And I want to like I just like to wonder with different theorists, how do you acquire all these things? Like do people send you things and then you kind of just put different pieces together, or are you just like how do you come up with your theories?
A lot of it is sometimes it depends. So it's very subjective to different subjects. Sometimes it is sort of in group chats discussing with people. Even in streams like this, I'm getting some new ideas from what you guys are saying, and that will lead me to investigate certain things, and then that investigation will lead to the realization of particular details that I wouldn't have maybe have observed before. What I like to do is go back to previous arcs and just observe things, like just look at what is here that in context of recent revelations changes what we might have seen, not have noticed previously. So if you go back to even Little Garden, you have introduction of Crocodile, where he says there are two things in this actually, which ties into the idea that no, Oda doesn't plan everything. He didn't have the whole thing planned out, but he uses a writing technique called gardening, where you plant seeds early on. So Oda's concept for the story, everyone knows it changed around Alabasta. The lead up to Alabasta, he realizes his different story to what I had planned at first. So then he uses Little Garden, literally named Little Garden, to plant the first seeds, and then Little Garden, Alabasta, Skypiea, Enies Lobby, Thriller Bark. These are the arcs where he's planted all the seeds that will eventually blossom to be the major aspects of the plot as we know it now, which are currently blossoming. So one of the first seeds we could notice, two different seeds he planted in Little Garden. One, when you get introduced with Sanji, three actually. First of all, Sanji calling himself Mr. Prince when he speaks to Crocodile. That was more so Alabasta than Little Garden. But then when you have the first intro of Crocodile, he's holding a lily flower, and he says, "Still alive, you say? Didn't you just tell me the mission was complete?" And then he eviscerates the lily flower. So this is a seed for the concept of Nefertari D. Lily. And the idea that Lily was actually alive. Lily ran away. They tried to take her out, but she survived. But then she did eventually get killed. And then also you have the introduction of Crocodile as Mr. Zero. You go all the way over to the God Valley flashback. Ivankov says, in all the previous hunting games of the Celestial Dragons, there have been exactly 0 survivors. Okay, let's flip that back to Impel Down. Crocodile and Ivankov have history. How do they know each other? Crocodile has a secret. Ivankov knows this secret. What is the secret? Well, if you tie those things together, Crocodile is Mr. Zero. There are exactly 0 survivors from the previous hunting games. Crocodile is a survivor of the previous Celestial Dragon hunting games.
That would be very, very interesting. Just imagine.
So I can see like you do like to look at like foreshadowings, right? To play into your theories.
The idea, the concept of, I'm actually working on a Fred series that I might try and use as my first sort of launch into YouTube, making videos, because I think I need that YouTube platform to really do it properly.
Yes, do YouTube.
But the idea that Oda is using this writing technique called gardening, where you don't plan everything out, and the timeline So you know everyone's familiar with the idea of this timeline of a writer. Writers create these timelines of events, or even Back to the Future. Back to the Future has a great presentation of it, where okay, you can get from point A to point B to point C to point D, and you can go on all sorts of tangents between them, but you always have to end up from point A has to connect to point B eventually. So this is basically Oda's created these major points in the story where here's the seed, here's the stem or the blossom, like it's starting to grow.
Yeah.
And now it's blossoming, and then it's a flower. And this is even represented in Rayleigh and Shanks. Back in Sabodi, Rayleigh says this is their new era. They're only just starting to blossom. You can't take out these sprouting blossoms. And then Shanks and Wano says, are you really scared of the new era that much? How are you going to take out these flowering blossoms? Implying the idea of, or literally just stating out loud that Oda is using this concept of seed, blossom, flower.
Yeah. Shout out to Kevin in the chat. He's saying Oda is absolutely a Gardner style writer, and he knows when to improvise, but knows how to let those seeds grow along with the original idea. Yeah, bro, that's the thing with Oda. Like, what Joe is saying is true. Like, and what Kev is saying as well. When you combine these ideas, Oda is a genius in the sense where he gives himself time to he introduces things so it's going to hit so much harder when you introduce it so much earlier and hint at it and plant these growing seeds. It just hits harder. But also giving so much time in between, it allows you to, it lets you grow on an idea. So you might have an idea, but then it can become something so much greater over time. You might change it a little. You might think of more to add into it. And I think he gives himself a lot of opportunities to do that. And I've said it before. I've said I think a lot of stuff where we feel like it's padding in the story, where we got like Luffy fighting certain people in the beginning of Wano, searching for the traitor in Egghead. I think he uses that time to kind of allow himself to breathe and think of more of how he wants to, come in with these final reveals or how he wants to progress the arc. So Oda, he definitely knows what he's doing when it comes to those types of progressions in the story.
Oh, 100%. And I definitely feel like Oda also is first and foremost, if people haven't realized already, a troll. Oda is a huge troll and loves to troll his fan base. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I made this grand story that everybody is going to love, and I know that they're going to love, and there are arcs where I can absolutely make it a 10 out of 10 story, right? And people are just wanting more and more of the backstory, more and more of what actually happened in this huge flashback that I'm going to mention years from now, right? What if I planted all the seeds for what is actually going to happen in the most boring arcs possible? Think about it. The most boring arcs possible, right? You got your Thriller Bark, people didn't like it that much. You got your Skypiea, people didn't like it that much. Long Ring, Long Land, people hated it, right? But you got to realize, if you look at the finer blueprint and finer details, now that we have information, those arcs are probably the most important arcs of the story in some cases. You got your Florian Triangle Devils that are like 300, 400 feet tall that barely almost destroyed the Straw Hats, and thank God they didn't see him. Long Ring, Long Land is a island that's completely eternally changed, and everything is free to a certain extent, which questions and brings the fact that, what if Joyboy awakened this entire island? What if Joyboy actually came from this island specifically, Long Ring, Long Land? There's a reason why it's manga canon, and it's not an anime filler specifically. Then you have your Skypiea, and there's a bunch of connections that we can obviously go into. No need to go into depth there. But people obviously had complaints about its pacing and things like that. But now when we look back at Wano and Oda saying his favorite panel is literally just Luffy dancing and the shadow and whatnot, I mean, it goes to show that Oda is a huge troll in some of these cases. And there are times where the most important information that we are looking for is not in the places where it seems.
Yeah. I mean, one example of that isn't even in the story, and I want to touch on it because I used it for the thumbnail for the stream. Oda once said that the pirate who wears the eye patch will be shown at the end of the story, and that kind of hints it's going to be important, right? So people have always said it's going to be Joyboy. I mean, we've even made videos on the channel talking about that idea, connecting it to oars or different ideas of how it could be with Joyboy, how Luffy might get a eye patch at the end of the series as well. We've always had the one eye symbolism, and so now that we're finding out about Joyboy, the first pirate, what do you guys think? Do you think Joyboy had the eye patch, the original?
It's really, really hard to say, but what I will say though is that if he does, it makes a lot of sense, because even the drawing that Oda made, right, the eye patch is over the right eye, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Let me see.
I think from perspective it would be the left.
Yeah, I think left.
Their left, or wait, yeah, okay.
Like if
It's
it's facing forward, it's left.
It's left,
Yeah.
But I just
Because
think the
if we
eye
look at
patch,
the
it's so
map of
iconic
Luffy
that
and stuff-
it feels like it definitely has to be an important character, right? Because
yeah.
it's the most iconic thing for a pirate besides like maybe some other things like treasure or, there's some other things too, but eye patch is definitely up there for sure.
I've always been of the belief that the eye patch pirate that will appear at the end of the story will be Doflamingo. Look at Doflamingo's Jolly Roger.
Yeah. Dovi's Jolly Roger is interesting, bro. You got the eye patch, and it connects to like the smiles, right? The smile fruits and.
So
And
okay,
I'm not
I
gonna
just
lie.
checked. To us, it is the right eye, but it's Luffy's left eye. But what I was saying was that we saw it in Skypiea, right? Shandora, where was it? It was in the left eye. I mean, there's obviously been a bunch of theories about this stuff, right? But if we look at that, right, and have details about all this stuff in terms of the ancient kingdom, certain connections and hints in terms of the one eye patch, the close to the end of the story, Shandora being part of possibly the ancient kingdom, all these poneglyphs giving that information, the One Piece. Like, I could very well see how Joyboy might have been that person with the eye patch. Either Joyboy, maybe even Emu, who knows? But it is someone that we haven't seen yet that we will see soon. That's for sure.
I'm coming from the left field. I'm thinking, I don't know, but every time I think about an eye patch, I always think about somebody villainous, a villain. Like, I'm really thinking it. We still ain't seen Rocks yet. I'm imagining if it's going to be Rocks or maybe some reincarnation of him. But when I think of the eye patch, honestly, he's the first person that always comes to mind to me. But I mean, you guys could be right if Joy Boy's out here getting his Drake on in a 1v20, maybe somebody caught his eye and, he had to walk around with that eye patch and make his round. So I wouldn't be surprised about that, honestly. But I mean, when I think of who's the good guys, who's the good guys that got eye patches? Like, when we think about all those people, it usually be like the pirates with the nasty teeth and, really about that pirate life. I don't think about no protagonist type character.
Like they got a peg leg or something?
Exactly. Captain Hook type energy.
Yeah.
That's why another reason I believe it will be Doflamingo, because Oda loves to use Doflamingo as sort of a narrator, like a secondary narrator, where Doflamingo has all these speeches where he sort of is a hype man for the finale of the story, and would be a perfect character to sort of have a sort of epilogue speech where he's just sort of the Straw Hats are sailing off to wherever and they found the One Piece and they found the ancient kingdom and the story's ending, the story's closing up, but then you just have you pan off to Doflamingo and he's just on some island drinking cocktails and he has an eye patch and he just monologues about everything he's been talking about before.
See, I think that Dofi's whole role in the story is very interesting, but I genuinely think that Dofi's goal is to be the next Emu. because he knows that
Yeah.
like based on Luffy's trajectory, how fast he's growing, revolution is inevitable. But what he's aiming for is the throne after the revolution, because obviously when chaos happens, like it's a like vacuum of power pretty much, and that's what Dofi talks about, the struggle for the throne, king of the pirates. And I feel like that's exactly what happened 800 and 900 years ago. And it's that they almost probably took out that ancient kingdom king that you were talking about, Joe. They almost did it, and they were able to successfully do it. And there was this vacuum of power. Nobody was there. And then all of a sudden, Emu fills that role and rewrites all of history. So I feel like Dofi is going for that position because he knows exactly what happened beforehand. He knows what Emu did to like pretty much take and manipulate that entire like position of power.
Well, he kind of admits this when he's talking to Law in Dressrosa, and he talks about the OPU no Mi and the power that it has. The two main powers: to be able to swap someone's personality with your own or anyone else's, and also the eternal youth surgery. And the whole reason he wanted that in the first place, and he says, if I had that power on that day, I could control the world by now. I would be that guy on the throne.
It's honestly very interesting.
You know, you said like the Dofi theory, I think is interesting too, because there's always been the theory that he had his eye like stabbed out when he was a kid. When I think it was during the time when he was a kid with his father, and they were being attacked, and people always wonder what happened to Dofi's eye. Why does he wear his glasses? Why do we never see his eye? I mean, there's been theories. I don't remember the exact details, but I do remember seeing that there was theories of him having one eye, and that's why he hides it with his glasses.
Hell, I had a theory that he actually has ringed eyes, just like Luffy, Emu, Cavendish, Caribou, Zunisha. I really do think he has those ringed type eyes, for sure.
There's a scene in his flashback when his father and his brother and himself are being basically crucified by the civilians for being celestial dragons, and it zooms in on his eyes, and again on the right eye you see fire in his eyes. It's like blazing fire, but not in the left, so it's again suggesting that he lost his eye at some point.
I think that could definitely be true for sure.
If you look, because obviously Oda like is very has an attention to detail to pop culture references, and we've seen that he's like done Batman and Joker, right? And obviously Dofi being the Joker. If you take one of the most amazing Joker quotes in The Dark Knight, they quite literally say that, like, you know, some men just want to watch the world burn. And I feel like Dofi is literally the epitome of that, because he talks about destruction, and he like sensed that that Law had the same characteristic in him, that he just wanted to destroy everything, and he wanted to just watch the world burn. And that's truly why I feel like Dofi's probably the scariest person in this story, even more so than some other villains like not Emu, but like Kaido or Blackbeard. It's that Dofi is never going to stop. It's that at some point, like, villains know when they're beaten by heroes or by like characters who are trying to triumph and liberate, like Luffy. They know when to stop, but Dofi's never going to stop, because he keeps trying to plan ahead, keeps trying to move forward. He genuinely thinks that he is the like true ruler of this world.
So let me
also, I think carry on, bro. My bad.
Oh, well, I mean, if you still had, I was going to kind of change the subject. So if you had something to add on, it's probably best for you to speak on it.
I just wanted to say that also this like heavily validated by the fact that Dressrosa is another one of those cases of Oda planting seeds, and you have things that he set up before sort of blossoming into these concepts, where Doflamingo himself is same as NL, a sort of miniature version of Emu. And they you know, the 16 holy bullets reflecting the 16 beams of the Mother Flame weapon that falls on the Lucia Kingdom. You have I think it's Gloria, one of his subordinates, has the art power, and what this art seems to represent a sort of abstract situation of it's. She says this represents the downfall of the Dressrosa kingdom, but then you have Momo represented as a king cowering underneath this like opening gate, and the sun is shining through this gate. Then you have Chopper and Nami also depicted in this. It kind of maybe suggests actually it's telling you also that the story of Dressrosa, as it is now, the downfall of Doflamingo returning to his kingdom and saying to Riku, I've returned to take this kingdom as my own because this is where my family originally came from. Apply that idea to Emu, maybe usurping someone else, as I've returned to this kingdom to take it for myself because it's my birthright, etc. Then you have the downfall of this king, represented by Momo in the sort of abstract art from Doflamingo's subordinate.
Yeah, no, it's very telling, and there's a lot of things in Dressrosa that are very important, I feel, to the end game of One Piece. And another thing is the birdcage. The birdcage is a huge thing because it's literally a ticking time bomb, pretty much, for all the people in Dressrosa to try and survive. It's a survival game, quite literally. And now with this announcement, with this chapter, it's the exact same thing. Instead of people in Dressrosa trying to move horizontally towards the epicenter of the birdcage, now it's people all over the One Piece world trying to move vertically upwards to try and stay away from drowning and, staying in the sea.
There's also one of Venel's subordinates uses a power very similar to the birdcage when fighting Zoro.
Which one was it?
I think it's Ohm, OHM. It has the iron, like an iron sword that he can stretch, and he like creates this cage structure.
Yeah. I remember.
Again,
okay.
Oda using the same ideas throughout. Again, reiterating that Skypiea and Dressrosa, very important arcs, especially considering NL. I mean, NL tells us about the Gorosei and the truth behind them way back in like chapter 274. It says something like, what's the actual quote? Let me find it. One moment.
Like and subscribe.
Subscribe if you haven't already. This is Joe's debut on the OPU channel, and we just got insider information that he might start YouTube, which I hope.
Yeah, speaking on that too, I feel like One Piece theories on YouTube have I feel like there hasn't been too many recently. I haven't been posting that much this year. I've seen a lot of other channels have not been posting too much, and it just seems like theories have kind of taken a backseat. And I think there's a market there, Joe, for you, especially that's your main focus. I think people definitely want theories, but I get comments all the time man, you gotta drop some more theories. And I know you got so many, so I think it'll be perfect when you start. If you do YouTube, man, bro, people definitely want theories.
I think there's also I've had arguments with people. I've had the argument with Grand Line and even Roger. And we've had disagreements. I don't hold it against them. It's not that deep, really. But this idea that I find, at least, on my view, is that there is a sort of, new generation, if you want to put it in One Piece terms. There's a new generation of content creators who are using Twitter, just like I did, to sort of rise up and build a platform for themselves with the intention of using that as a springboard into YouTube and TikTok and other platforms. And I think this really is all the guys that I have in my group chats, and you guys are probably familiar with lots of them as well. There's too many of them to name. I'll end up forgetting people that deserve mentions. But these guys are the ones to look out for in the future, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of other theories too, guys from the last arc. I don't know if you watched some of their stuff.
Shout out last arc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some guy. I think what are some of the names? Cube,
And then
Denden, Cushy. Yeah, you got like a bunch of dope theorists, man. Like they don't post too much, but those are some underrated theorists. There's definitely like a wave I think coming up. I saw like a Japanese theorist that's kind of been blowing up recently. Forgot his name. Was it Dawn? Dawn of something? One Piece Dawn.
on pizza.
I forgot his. Yeah, Dawn and Dusk. Dawn and Ducks. Yeah, there's a few different theories kind of popping up. I do, it is theories are interesting because it does take a lot of it takes a lot more thought. I think like it's just different type of content, bro. You got guys like BDA and Grand Line. It's more reactionary. It's more entertaining in a sense of like fun and it is entertaining in a different way. But I think for people who want to go deeper and deeper, like you got like theories, you got analysis like Moores and stuff. So there's just different content. That's the way I see it. But
it's just exploring One Piece through the many different minds of the world. So which is cool.
Yeah, it's just there's so much to One Piece that you can really talk about so many things and do it in your own way.
No,
I got to kind of be wrapping it.
Sorry, carry on.
Okay, I was about to say I kind of got to get myself ready. I got a little event I'm about to be going to shortly, but I definitely wanted to just get this one off my chest real quick. I've had a love-hate relationship with paneling all throughout the world. I understand because this is a worldwide event that we're dealing with, but I do love the fact that we haven't seen a few specific people as we've been doing this. The first ones I just want to mention is Cross Guild. I'm just I feel like whatever they may be doing to try to make Buggy's dream come true is something that's going to be very prevalent come the next arc. So I'm really interested in that. But I just wanted to speak on that. But the most important person I wanted to speak on was Dr. Correa. She was the first person to tell us about, the Will of D existing. And then when you think about how she got her life set up, where, Luffy literally had to climb miles with Sanji on his back and, Sanji and Nami in that whole circumstance, having to climb that thing, like, if she's living all the way up there in her own Marijoa type circumstance, maybe she's ready for like, if Gorosei or Emu decides to give another great cleansing, I'm so high up on the world, I may not be affected like everybody else is. So I'm really interested to see if they ever, before we leave Egghead, if we get some kind of words or thought process from Dr. Correa. There's been a lot of speculation of her possibly being involved with God Valley and, her being as old as she is. I just imagine she knows a lot. So she's probably the person I'm most interested in seeing how this news from Vegapunk affects her thought process and everything that she knows.
Yeah, I would like to see Rayleigh too, right? Because we know Rayleigh is connected to Roger, the One Piece, and he knows a lot of the history too with what happened to the Void Century and the Ancient Kingdom. And you mentioned who was the first person you mentioned?
Cross Guild.
Oh, Cross Guild. Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, Cross Guild. I think with Cross Guild, why we don't really see too much of it is because I feel like they're probably fighting the Marines right now. I feel like we might get something towards the end of the arc with them, but it seems like they're pretty busy right now.
Preoccupied for sure.
On Cross Guild, because they said that they're going to go for the One Piece, Buggy actually can quite easily get at least 2 out of 4 of them. He knows Momo from the past. He was on Roger's crew with Momo. He would be Momo would welcome him to Wano as a friend, and then he'd go and find the Poneglyph there. He also has been to Zoe. He knows how to get to Zoe. He will be welcomed as an old friend by Neko and Inu. And then when it comes to the last one, the Man Up by Flames, maybe he has some clues there as well. But I think the one that they're going to go for first of all is Whole Cake Island. That Poneglyph is still there as far as we know, and Whole Cake Island is virtually defenseless at the moment. They've been absolutely put into shambles. Big Mum supposedly gone. She's out of commission. Pudding gone. Cracker out of commission. Katakuri and Oven, they were boxing each other. They're probably wounded. But then their chief concern is we're going to go get Pudding. So most of the Big Mum pirates are going to clear off and try and get Pudding back. Their own rescue Sanji arc. But then that leaves Whole Cake Island almost entirely defenseless. But they're not the only people who are going to realize this. And Akainu also will realize this. And if you look at the One Piece world maps, especially the interactive globe from Clay Stage, if you look at the positioning of Whole Cake Island, it is exactly central to all 4 of the Yonko territories. This would be, from a marine perspective, to set up a garrison in Whole Cake Island would be a fantastic strategic standpoint to launch their attacks against all of the other Yonko and even the Revolutionary Army. So I think we're going to have a situation where Fujitora is sent to Whole Cake Island to just take it over. This is our territory now. But then at the same time, Buggy, Crocodile, Mihawk are also pulling up. And then potentially you have clashes between Mihawk, Fujitora.
Ooh, that would be cool. I can't lie. Seeing the difference between an admiral and the world's strongest swordsman.
I think also the idea of Hawkeye versus the Blind Man. I think they have history.
Might be.
Interesting.
Also, Joe, I wanted to ask you, based on the 4 road poneglyphs, we know like pretty much a little bit about each and every single one. So I wanted to ask, it's been in the back of my mind for a while now, but the origin of the 4 road poneglyphs. We know that the one in Zou was not moved with obviously the algae on it and stuff like that. It can't have moved. So one was on Zou for good. Same with Wano. It was literally underneath like the entire like sort of system of the new age of Wano and underneath the entire island pretty much, so it couldn't have moved obviously. Then you have Fishman Island, which is moved now, we don't know where it is. And then the last one, which was Big Mom's. Where do you think Big Mom's road poneglyph came from?
Wait, before we get into that, I'm gonna let you finish that, but I know JJ gotta go, so I'm gonna let him go and give his final words. You got anything to say, JJ?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Joe. I've been asking you to be on the stream for a minute. I'm glad Preach actually pulled the trigger because I don't be trying to run stuff over here. I just be making suggestions and just be hoping for the best. So Joe, I'm so happy you came through, and I'm like, yo, to come through on this chapter, I was like, yo, this is a chapter for the theorists. So that's why I was so comfortable just sitting back and just listening to y'all cook, throwing my little, parsley and my little seasoning whenever I could. But oregano's kind of whack. But it was just it was definitely an honor having you on the stream for sure. I just need you to make sure everybody know that you're the newest member of Team Top Man. We not a cult. We just we have a like mind, and we just growing together. As family. When people be on the outside looking in, they like to call things when they're unfamiliar with it. But that's okay. That's their ignorance. We not gonna sweat them too much. But we already know John Sherrod on all social media. It was an absolute pleasure being on this stream. 11:14 was crazy. I'm sad that we got ourselves another break, but let Oda take some time, because if he gonna give us another panel like he did with that Mother Flame, I give that man 2 weeks. So Prince, always a pleasure as always. Shout out to Zane. He out here doing Mother Day things, of course. But y'all keep the energy going. OPU, we do what we do. Go visit the website. Peace.
Appreciate you,
Shout out
bro.
JJ, man. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna let Prince continue what he was saying. And then I want to go into one final topic. After that, I want to go into Elbaf, Joyboy, and all of this. Okay, so go ahead, Prince.
Yeah, so my guess was that it was Elbaf, but Joe, I wanted to ask, where do you think that Big Mom's road poneglyph came from? Because we know the origins of the other 3, and I feel like it is vitally important to figure out where the last one was actually from, because it would tell a lot of details as to what Joyboy or who Joyboy wanted to give like the message to the entire world, like the 4 like countries or like kingdoms he trusted the most. And we know Zou, Wano, and Fishman Island were 3.
I think Elbaf would have been my first guess, but then you think of the timeline of Big Mom's association with Elbaf.
Mhm.
I don't think it can be Elbaf, because she almost certainly didn't go back there after she left, because I don't think she was welcome.
Yeah.
Well, she might have been welcome beforehand, but I don't think she went back there at any point, because they already had beef with her because she killed one of their elders. This was before the whole Lola and Loki thing, even. So I don't think maybe it was from Elbaf originally, but it had been moved elsewhere already. That's one possible scenario.
Thought process was that I think she lied about what happened with Lola and the whole trauma dump she pretty much gave to her, in the sense that like it wasn't just the rejection of Lola to Loki that pissed off an entire like Elbathian kingdom. That doesn't really make sense. I mean, think about it from like their perspective. Like they're so enraged because like some daughter said, "Nah, I don't really think you're that attractive." I think a king could get over that because he probably has many other people that he'd like. But I think that in actuality, it was that while making this disguise of, oh yeah, I want my daughter to marry you, so that we could come together, and like she did want that to happen, but at the same time, she's a pirate. So I think that she somehow figured out how to steal the road poneglyph from Elbaf, which is why they're that pissed.
That's a strong theory. I think the only alternative to that would be God Valley, and I think there is a lot of mystery surrounding West Blue. Oda has, for some reason, absolutely refused to elaborate on West Blue. There's we know Robin is from West Blue, Lafitte is from West Blue. Several characters are important from West Blue, but what actually happened in West Blue? We know God Valley happened, O'Hara happened, and you keep getting these characters, Lafitte and Robin in particular, who are associated with being demons. Lafitte is the demon sheriff, Robin is the demon child. I don't think Doflamingo didn't come from or wasn't born in West Blue, but there's this idea that he's hiding something in the West Blue, and almost certainly that pertains to God Valley. And I think there's a strong suggestion that if not a road poneglyph, one of the 9 real poneglyphs that reveals a true history was at God Valley. I like your theory. I'm actually I think that's a strong theory, that the whole narrative of Loki and Lola is a cover story, and that yes, she is genuinely pissed off that got ruined because she did want it, but actually the basis of that, or the secondary reason why she wanted that in the first place, was not just to take the Elbathian army for herself, but also to gain access to Elbath again, because she wouldn't otherwise have been allowed to go back there.
Exactly. I feel like
that's a
Big Mom was able to make her peace with the fact that she wasn't like with Elbaf, but then like her dream was also tearing at her, that like she wanted to like have each and every single member of every race with her, like as a, even though it's a very twisted, warped version of it, a family. But at the exact same time, like Big Mom isn't really the most family oriented person either, because if she was, she wouldn't be pretty much dumping husbands left and right as soon as like she's able to birth a child of a certain race. So it's almost like it's pretty much a narcissistic point of view, whereas like she's using a family to pretty much solely focus on her own motives. And that's really what it is, because if you look at her children and her like dire like uh officers and crew members and stuff like that, they're all her children, but they solely work for her. And if anything wrong happens, it's off with the head, even if you're my child. We saw that with, although there was some consistency issues with it. I forgot his name, but the one son that got offed early on because he didn't get Big Mama Crockembouche. I forgot what his name was.
I don't remember either, to be fair.
But he had like pink swirly hair or something, and later on it showed that he was still alive, which was weird because he had his soul taken from him. But yeah, if Big Mom is not even hesitant to dump the husband that she fell in love with to have children, and then later on completely ignore said children if they're not useful to her, then it goes to show that she's quite literally only using her family as a means to further her own motives. And if that's the case, then obviously it would be towards being Pirate King, finding the road poneglyphs, gaining armies, having military power. It just goes on endlessly. So I truly do feel like there's a secret motive behind that whole marriage proposal.
I think you've touched on two things there that I'd like to comment on. First of all, I think with the whole idea of Big Mom sort of manipulating Elbaf to get the road Poneglyph and using the marriage as a sort of excuse, I think that opens up the idea of, if we consider that Big Mom has essentially a split personality. There's Lin Lin, there's Olin, there's Big Mom. I think Lin Lin genuinely wanted the dream to be achievable, and she wanted forgiveness from Elbaf. She wanted the marriage to fulfill her dream. But then the other side of the coin, Big Mom, got to Elbaf, found the road Poneglyph, and suddenly that personality took over, and then she effectively, betrayed herself in a way by going behind their backs and trying to take it, which pissed them off. And also, if you consider the main premise of Big Mom's story is essentially a tragic irony, where she wanted to be like Mother Caramel, to be to create this family of all these races, but that in the first place was a lie, and it was this desire to make everyone giant like herself that eventually led to the corruption of her dream, which itself then led to her being responsible for children being sold into experiments for the gigantification from Caesar, which then made her like the actual Mother Caramel.
Very crazy. It's literally like history repeating itself almost.
It's a tragic irony. I think there's also you touched on this one of her sons getting his soul taken. I've recently posted a theory on suggesting, is Big Mom dead or not? And okay, we saw in Wano that Big Mom can use her soul powers to effectively heal herself, but she used her own soul. If Big Mom has back in Whole Cake Island, or even just in her own body, a massive reserve, a surplus reserve of a lifespan that she simply has never used, but she hasn't needed to, does that not suggest that she can not only heal herself, but also quite literally reverse her age? And that particular scene where she takes her son's lifespan, she says precisely 40 years, which would be just 2 years before God Valley.
Mm-hmm.
That opens up the suggestion that Big Mom may return, but not as we know her. There will once again be a new personality. So Lin Lin, Olin, Big Mom, and then now a new personality. And one of the most shocking parts here will be that she isn't fat and old anymore. She's back in her prime, like she was during the Rocks era.
They called her specifically during the Rocks era. I can find the panel, but yeah, that would be extremely interesting, because obviously there's also the proof that Nami still has Zeus, and if Nami still has Zeus and Zeus is based off of Big Mom's soul power, then how is Zeus still existing if Big Mom is dead? So I can see how that makes sense.
I think I've just been setting it up, I think, for Big Mom to return.
So I made a poll for Big Mom. Is Big Mom alive? And I guess we'll see what chat has to say. But
78%.
Yeah, so far 78% says no. It says no that she's not dead. Okay, I really want to get into one topic, man. The final things with Elbaf, right? Like, we're talking about Sun God Nika. I've seen a lot of theories going around, and I think it's kind of like, we've talked about it on this channel, that Nika was probably a predecessor to Joyboy. Like, I always saw Joyboy as this mythical person, like he's a myth. He's not necessarily a specific person, and Nika is like an original god, and that's where the fruit eventually came from. Similar to like the Buddha, right? Like Sengoku's Buddha was probably an original god from the beginning of time, or maybe the ancient days of the One Piece world. And so we're kind of starting to see, like, that seems more and more likely. It's even implied in this chapter that they are separate, that Nika is a god of Elbaf. So it really is a lot of information to take in and process. How old is Elbaf? How is Nika connected to it? And Nika is not a giant, at least it doesn't appear like it, but it does have the power to become a giant. So it's very interesting stuff. Yeah, so I want to kind of just jump into all this Elbaf lore.
This is another case, I think, of Oda planting seeds.
Yeah, go ahead and cook, bro.
Like and subscribe.
So I think this is another case of Oda planting seeds, and coincidentally, or not at all coincidentally, this seed can be found in Little Garden. If we go back to the beginning of Little Garden, when Luffy first meets Dory, Dory tells Luffy, "We beseech the god, our god, Elbaf. Elbaf is just and will basically give divine protection to those who are worthy." So this is a suggestion that Elbaf, the country, is originally named after a person called Elbaf, who was originally a heroic giant and then became known as a god, plants the seed for the idea that this god, Elbaf, and perhaps Nika are one and the same.
Yeah.
Elbaf was a real giant.
Listen,
then
bro,
became a
I'm
great
honest,
warrior.
I'm gonna have to go back and read Little Garden at this point, because I've always said that Little Garden is one of my least favorite arcs. And at this point, bro, you're bringing up so much foreshadowing, and like I'm gonna have to go reread it, bro. I haven't seen it in a long time, but this is actually really interesting.
What did I say? Oda's a huge troll, man. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
This chapter in particular, 116, Dory says to Luffy, "When there's a dispute and neither side will yield, the god Elbaf decides the matter. Our god protects the one in the right and will let him live."
See, what I love about this is the fact that Luffy is quite literally the embodiment of the god that they're praying to, but at the same exact time, he doesn't believe in any of it. Yeah. That's what I love so much.
It makes it more pure, too.
Yeah, and
he doesn't even know about it.
If you really think about it, right? What does it, in a sense, right? What does it mean to be a god, right? Like, what does it actually mean? And in some cases, a lot of people say that like a god is just people who do heavenly acts, but don't seek anything in return, right? So if that's the case with Luffy, right? He doesn't want to be a hero, but because of the fact that he doesn't want the recognition, he's something even greater than that. A literal god. I mean, that's what the perception of Jesus was, right? That like he can do all of these miracles and all these crazy things, and then he didn't ask for literally much in return, and he just did miracles for the sake of like humanity or like the good in people, not necessarily like believing in the idea, but just the idea of Jesus, right? Like that whole miracle aspect and how he became like a god. It's the same thing with Luffy. Like he's doing all these like amazing things for people. It's like being such an insanely good human being to the point where like he's helping people out in every which way possible. And then they're like, "Oh my god, you literally changed my entire life. I don't know what to do without you. What can I do in return?" And then Luffy's like, "You don't need to do jack shit. I helped you out because you're a good person and you gave me food. That's all I could ask for. Now I'm about to dip. It was good knowing you." Like, obviously, at that point, it just becomes routinely culture to make that person a literal god at that point. So I can see how, like, beforehand, if Joyboy had the same ideas and characteristics as Luffy, to the point where he's like, "Nah, I'm just trying to be a good human being. I'll help you out, and you don't really have to do much in return for me." He literally, like, kept doing that to the point where he literally achieved god status.
Yeah, Joe, what do you think about...
I think also...
Okay.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, what do you think about Luffy having to, like... Because I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter, they go, like, Luffy is becoming too reliant and abusing this, like, this restorative food thing where, like, the giants are now feeding him multiple times, and he has to... Or he ate with... we don't even know how he ate all that food in the beginning after he fought Kizaru. It's like, do you think this is getting a little bit annoying, or like, what are your thoughts on this? And now with Elbaf being brought in, and they know how his power works, I don't think it's gonna slow down anytime soon. If we're going to Elbaf, that's gonna be like a huge part of the arc. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's kind of annoying? Do you think it takes away from his power? What are your thoughts?
Something very interesting to notice that I think explains things and what Oda is building up to, and it even ties back to when Luffy first met Blackbeard. So Luffy first gets the food that helps him come back to be Kaido from Caribou. Then he eats this shark meat from Elbaf. He says it's disgusting. That ties us back to when he met Blackbeard and they're both eating the same pie. And Luffy says it's disgusting. Blackbeard says it's fantastic. If we go to the middle example, who gave him that food when he was fighting Kizaru? Who has the power to do so? Van Alga has the power to do so. He can warp things. So Caribou, Van Alga, and then a direct association or callback to the scene with Blackbeard. What Oda's constructing here, I think, is effectively this reliance on food will become a prevalent point when Luffy fights Blackbeard. And everyone who's given him these foods has ironically been subordinates of Blackbeard.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been upset with the food thing, just because it's always been part of Luffy's power. We've always seen 100%. It, and so, like, I mean, at this point, if Gear 5 is this, this power that is just so broken and taking so much energy, it would make sense that he needs to react to it even more and prepare with food and these different things. I'm just wondering how it's going to play out into the bigger picture of, like, the end game, right? Like in Elbaf, when he's becoming a giant and, like, fighting giants and all these crazy things, I feel like he's going to have to eat a lot of food, man. Like, he's going to need a lot of it. So, and, you brought up Blackbeard. The more and more we go into the deeper parts of the story with Blackbeard and those fights, I wonder if it's always going to be a thing with Luffy, like, having a mid-fight snack, even versus Blackbeard, even versus Emu. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But
I mean, it's always been a characteristic of his, like, character that, like, I made a video about this too, that, like, food is quite literally Luffy's greatest superpower. And it's because of the fact that he's rubber, he can digest the food into energy almost immediately and then redistribute that energy to keep himself alive. He's done it in Enies Lobby when he literally put meat in his pockets, and then later on that meat was used and it actually helped him out. Like, it actually helped save him. And then later on in Whole Cake Island, when he literally says, Sanji, I need you or I can't become king of the pirates. Yes, it's from a point of, like, it's his friend, crewmate. He needs him desperately because he has that deep connection with him and he doesn't want to lose him. But at the same time, Luffy has such a, like, symbolic relationship with food, and he values it so much because for Luffy, he has literally monkey brain. It's very simple. He has food, and food equals life. So whoever gives him more food is giving him more life. It's that simple. So whoever is able to give him that food and give him more life, he's able to thank, appreciate, and do whatever he needs to do in order to repay that back. So that's why, like, there's moments in the story where literally, just like Tama, you get a bowl of rice. Preach. I'm telling you right now, it is astounding for me to, like, understand that if Luffy was in the real world and I gave him a Chipotle bowl, the man would literally overthrow the U.S. government. That is insane to me. But
yeah,
to
bro,
Luffy,
and, like, that's the thing, like, bro, Vegapunk to me is now setting up the Elbaf arc to the most extreme scenario. I mean, he's literally calling out Elbaf as the home of Sun God Nika, and talking about the ancient kingdom, the world government, all these different things. It's like, bro, this guy is, and I'm just saying, like, can you imagine the feast that Luffy's? This is not gonna be a midnight snack or like a mid-fight snack anymore. When you're in Elbaf with these huge giants and they're cooking up like a whole meal for you, bro, that's like a giant meal. So. And honestly, bro, I think I love this chapter because it's hyping up the next arc so much. Now Elbaf is the final war, bro. Like, this is, people want the final war to be in Mauricio, and I think it will get there for sure. But there is no doubt in my mind now that everyone is now heading to Elbaf. Because
See,
Vegapunk's hyping it up to like, bro, this is crazy, bro. This is like actually insane that he's name dropping Elbaf this way.
in my
I've
opinion,
got
based on how
2
things
points
are
for
going.
you there.
Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
First point, almost certainly Elbaf will be the prelude to the final war, and almost certainly Oda's going to use Ragnarok as an inspiration, where Shanks, Blackbeard, Luffy, even Buggy, even maybe Dragon and Akainu will have major roles in this arc, and absolutely everybody will be fighting. I don't know how Oda's going to do it, but you're going to have almost every big player. Then you've got Kuzan reuniting with Soul and Robin. Every big player in the game is going to be on this board in Elbaf, and it's going to be insane. But also touching on the idea of Luffy needing food. If we look at Norse mythology, there are two different things that appear. One is a suggestion that on the Yggdrasil tree, there grows a special fruit called mana. And this mana fruit will give you effectively special powers. I think it was Logo Piece that pointed this out to me originally. And then also, if you go to Norse mythology and the Vikings, which almost definitely central to Shanks and Elbaf, there's the hallucinogenic mushrooms, and of course Yahweh theories will you won't hear the end of it from him. The significance of mushrooms in One Piece, tying also to Chopper, his devil fruit is a mushroom shape. But the idea that Luffy will eat during Elbaf something based on these hallucinogenic mushrooms, which effectively were believed to induce hallucination and send these Vikings into a berserk mode. This will maybe provide a power up even to Gear 5th.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Gear 5th is the final Luffy power up that we see. I think there's going to be maybe two, but I think definitely at least one more that's like in the final saga or final war, something to fight against Blackbeard. And I want to go back to that theory I mentioned earlier, where Luffy is going to have powers of the actual sun, right? Like if the sun can create, if the mother flame and the sun can create these huge devastating attacks, and then we look at someone like Blackbeard, right? Blackbeard has two devil fruits. He has destruction and chaos. He has darkness and the earthquake. So I've always thought like there has to be a counter, and I always thought it was, well, Luffy's just going to have superior haki, which I think still will be true. But if we think about him having another power up, where now this mythical zone is almost like it has the rubber abilities, but then at the final power up of Luffy's fruits, he awakens another thing. We've seen the Red Rock, we've seen him be able to use fire. So now he has essentially two, I guess not two devil fruits, but two different types of abilities that he can use at the same time, kind of countering Blackbeard having two as well. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
I think he innately had it since the beginning. I mean, Red Hawk, right?
Yeah. And if you think Red Hawk too, I'll let you finish. Just let me. Red Hawk, bro. It's like Blackbeard literally said that the sun is the opposite to the light, right? He said it to Ace when he's using like a sun. He's making like a little sun when fighting Blackbeard. He said we are the opposite light and darkness. So the sun is like literally the opposite. So yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there, bro, but I just want to point that out.
I was just gonna say I have one more theory for Joe and you, Preach, if you want to hear. Before I got a dip, because I do have.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I should drop off as well at some point soon.
This is complete, not headcanon, but complete tinfoil. So you need to bear with me here. But we were talking about the importance of food, the importance of like just overall like the idea of giving food for Luffy. So I was just thinking, like one day I was like literally just sitting down, just rereading One Piece, the very beginning of it, and specifically the parts in the beginning where Luffy says, "I wouldn't be anything without my friends, without my crewmates. I can't be a swordsman. I can't lie. I can't navigate. I can't cook food." So it's thinking like, what if Sun God Nika, and what if Joyboy was a person who didn't have these friends at the beginning like Luffy? He didn't have someone who can cook. He didn't have a liar, swordsman, navigational expert, none of that. and he was just a random, like, pretty much hobo or like a town clown, jester, whatever you want, right? Just someone who's just hanging about, and everyone thought he was like the village idiot, pretty much. But every time when something dire happened and something like somebody needed help in some way, he was there, and he was ready to help them out, ready to fight whatever was necessary in order to, just save like the situation at hand. And then whenever the time like ended, the situation was dealt with, he would then go back to wherever he like was originally, and then all he would do, like Luffy, was just scream meat at the top of his lungs, which in Japanese is niku, right? So what if everyone like around him just, instead of, because that's the one thing he would keep shouting like over and over again, just labeled him as, oh, like that's the Niku guy, right? So then
Yeah.
it eventually like became a moniker of his that, oh, like from Niku to Nika. So it just ended up snowballing over and over to the point where like he has these powers, he's using it for good, he gains meat from it, and like he asks for nothing in return except for food. And it comes to a point where he literally went from village idiot all the way to literal god, and he became sun god Nika, to the point where he like literally started from the bottom, went all the way to the top, rags to riches tail. And that tail itself is the laugh tail that is on like the last island that Roger listened to. And he found that hilarious that like they misinterpreted like Nika to Niku, or meat, what he was saying, and that he literally became a god just because he was able to fight people off and ask for meat, just like Luffy is doing right now.
Yeah,
That also
that's a lot, man.
essentially
It is a lot.
Go,
And
go
like,
ahead, Joe.
that potentially presents a parallel, something maybe another sort of seed concept that Oda's using with not just Luffy and Roger, but also Oden. Because what was Oden trying to do the whole time? He was trying to set sail
Yep.
and go to the seas, and he was
Facts.
the village idiot.
mm-hmm.
You know, he couldn't do anything successfully other than fight. And Odin, if he tried to set sail, didn't work. And I think same idea with Joyboy, where he's this village idiot from the ancient kingdom, you know, just this absolute numbskull who just wants to eat food and fight people. And he eventually says, you know, stuff this, I'm going to leave and go on an adventure. But then he tries and he can't do it. But then eventually, just like Odin did, he eventually does succeed in setting sail and then becomes the first to do so.
So, do we think that Joyboy is a giant from Elbaf?
See,
No,
as far as
I think-
the rank,
Or,
he could quite
like-
literally be anybody. But I am. It's hard.
It's tough, right? Like I can
This-
see different theories. I've heard what's Kuma's race? The
I don't-
Buccaneers. I've heard the Buccaneers because it's like the Buccaneers are kind of like a they're connected to the Elbaf giants, but they're also, you know, Buccaneer is a pirate, right? So it's like he's the first pirate. So I've seen that, you know, the Oars stuff. I still think that's definitely possible. I mean, I think Oars
I
connected
think
to Elbaf.
if Joyboy was a giant, Oda wouldn't have drawn the distinction between Nika being from Elbaf and Joyboy being from some different advanced kingdom. But it raises the point that Oda is avoiding telling us the name of this kingdom. And Vegapunk has repeated like 5 times now that the basis of his research is what they discovered in Ohara. What they discovered in Ohara was one of the ancient weapons and the name of the ancient kingdom. We're now seeing the ancient weapon through the Mother Flame, most likely based on Uranus, which connects again to the NL flashback or NL cover story where he discovers the mural on the moon, and it shows you the foreshadowing of the Mother Flame. You know, they had the same thing. But then, what about the name of the ancient kingdom? Oda is avoiding telling us this, almost potentially, because if Vegapunk truly not only had all the research from Ohara, but also took it further, directly implies that we should at some point learn the name of the ancient kingdom, but he's avoiding telling us that specific detail.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely I think okay. Let me ask you this: do you think that he's going to reveal it in this speech? Do you think that's maybe something that gets cut off by the Gorosei? What do you think is going to happen with?
Almost certainly cut off, because if it's told to everyone, that also includes Robin and Luffy hearing it, and that can't happen.
See, in my opinion, I think Robin maybe already knows the name of the ancient kingdom. I made a video kind of explaining it more, but it would be, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'll be, it would be kind of sad to see, like, cause he's carrying on O'Hara's will, right? And if O'Hara was like, he died right before he was about to explain, or right when he was about to reveal the name, or he got shot, right? And then, so like the same thing for Vegapunk. If it gets cut off right when he's about to say the name, bro, it's gonna be like, damn, bro, like he really teasing us this time. Like this is the second time, so.
I think he will get to say the beginning of the name, will get at least the first syllable of the name, and people who pay close attention will then be able to decipher what it is. If he says W and A, it's Wano. If he says SKY, it's Skypea, and then he gets cut off before he finishes saying the name of the kingdom. And maybe it will be a kingdom that several kingdoms might have the same beginning syllables or ending syllables, or maybe the signal gets interrupted and we only get a sort of tidbit of it. But I don't think this is something I feel that can't be revealed. Maybe because Luffy can't hear it and Robin can't hear it. There is a reason, the dramatic irony where everyone else in the world learns it and we learn it as the audience, but the main character and the chief character surrounding him don't learn it. Then there's a dramatic irony of we know it, but they don't.
That's what I said. I was saying two things. Either that would happen in the sense that literally everyone in the world learns it except for like the broadcast that's happening in Egghead, right? They're able to like take it off somehow. So everybody in Egghead doesn't know. Either that, or I was thinking that Luffy intrinsically, automatically already knows the name. Like in his Gear 5 state, like when Vegapunk is about to say it, right? It's in him. He already knows, and it's just instinct. Like it's just a part of him that like he knows the name, and that like Robin also finds out at the same time. So it would be interesting to see.
Most certainly, Oda is hiding it. I think it's very telling of the fact that we as the audience know this kingdom. We know what it is. Because if he reveals this name, it suddenly connects several dots.
Like,
and then
those... Yeah.
But I think we certainly know the name already. It's just a matter of which one is it.
Interesting.
All right, so I think it's a perfect time to wrap it up. It's been 3 hours. It was a great stream.
That's how you know it was a theorist stream for sure.
Yeah, a lot of theories to go over, man. There was so much in this. It's going over the ancient kingdom stuff. It was like it's gonna be a lot right here, Nika and all this. Joe, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I've been trying to get you on here for a while, and it's been a long time coming, bro. Once you start your YouTube stuff, I've always been supporting you, bro. Just let me know, and I'll help you out as much as I can. I've always been a fan of your theories. I don't really use Twitter too much these days as much as I used to, but yeah, bro. I'm really thankful you came on, man. You got any final thoughts?
I just want to say it's been a pleasure to join you. I've been looking forward to joining you guys for a long time. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad I finally got around to it. It's been a great discussion today. Lots more theories coming up, lots more content on the way. Don't really want to, spoil the chapter because the official chapter is not even out yet. But lots more content on the way, and lots more projects on the way as well. I want to thank you guys again for having me on. And I look forward to working with you again.
Yeah, make sure you guys go check him out on Twitter. I left his link is in the description. Joe Skulls, 3 Skulls Joe. So yeah, go check him out, guys. And Prince, you got any final words?
Honestly, I just want to say pretty much the same thing. It's been a long time coming since we wanted to collab with Joe. I mean, I remember his theories from like the days I joined Twitter. Like I was a very small, tiny creator, and I made a couple of theories, and Joe like was like, "Yo, these are dope, man. You should keep going." And like I really did appreciate it from like not just a a theorist standpoint, but from a creator standpoint. Like he was very encouraging, very uplifting, and I really did appreciate it so much. And I will say that like if it wasn't for that like encouragement, like I wouldn't have potentially like gone into group chats, even met Preach, Krow, JJ, and Zane, and like been a part of OPU and just like been like inspired to create more. So I would say, Joe, like you were a huge inspiration, like when it was me coming up as a creator. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate that.
That means a lot, bro.
So yeah, I'm really glad that we finally were able to do this, and it was just great for me, man. And really love always talking theories. Can't wait for the YouTube channel for you to start, because I know it's been in the works for a while now, but I really like am excited for that. And as for everything else, like OPU related, each and every single one of you viewers, shout out to you guys. Chat was extremely active. I saw each and every one of you. Tapis, Person 420, Billy Bob, Crypto Bro, even Merlin came in. You got Kev, Sword Egg, all these people. So thank you so much to each and every single one of you. These streams wouldn't be possible without you guys, so we really do appreciate you guys coming through, whether it's donations, likes, simple things, or it's just a simple view for 5 minutes. We really do appreciate it.
I very much appreciate all of the Twitter side coming through as well to support.
Yeah, a lot of I see a lot of Joe supporters in here, man. Shout out to everybody from Joe's side. Make sure you guys like the stream if you haven't already. I appreciate all the super chats as well. It was a fun stream, man. Also, check out the merge shop if you want to support us at an even bigger level, at part of the community. You can go check out some of we got hoodies, and I know it's getting kind of hotter now, so you might want to check out the tees. We're gonna be dropping some new merch eventually. But yeah, man, it was a fun stream, amazing chapter as always. And I'm just excited for the next stuff we got coming on. Maybe we'll do a stream on, the Kendrick Drake stuff. It was a fun weekend, man. And it was fun seeing Twitter go crazy. I've never seen, I've seen a lot of Kendrick bandwagons. I'm not gonna lie, bro. But you gotta, it's fun that they're finally jumping on the bandwagon. Kendrick, an amazing artist. Yeah, man, it's just been a fun week for me with the OPU guys on Twitter. And so maybe we'll get one of those streams going. We got a lot of, because I saw the last stream, a lot of people enjoyed that stream where we mostly talked about the beef, and like so much stuff came out after that. So just stay tuned for that, man. Everybody in the chat, appreciate it. Billy Bob, I saw Merlin stop by. Yeah, man, huge stream.
Oh yeah, if there is one more thing I had to say, my bad. It's all eyes on Rafa. If you know what it means, you know what it means. If you don't, search it up. I will say that's my last